Welcome aboard, everybody. A Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash is live. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the 97.3 ESPN YouTube channel. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's going on, everybody? Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. This is like, remember when, does Pro Football Talk still do how many days without an arrest for an NFL player? Remember they used to keep track of that? I don't know if they still do it or not, but we're in that range now for the Eagles offensive coordinator search. Day 19. I don't know what day it is. Whatever day Kevin Patullo got fired, they do not have a replacement yet. Good thing, bad thing, indifferent. I'll tell you where I'm at coming up on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Phillies, by the way, are 2 weeks from today. They will be in Clearwater for pitchers and catchers. They report on the 11th. You've got the Flyers tonight getting back in action against the Blue Jackets and the Sixers, that was a fun game last night. I mean, they beat the Bucks, who are kind of shorthanded. No Giannis. And I guess Giannis has now decided he does want to, in fact, be traded. Kind of, giving the Bucks an ultimatum at this point. You got the trade deadline a week from tomorrow. Hey, you want to get yourself traded? Get yourself hurt right before the deadline. That should get you maximum value. I don't know. I don't know what you do if you're the Bucks with Giannis, but I'm here to kind of look at what happened last night with the Sixers, who beat the Bucks and kind of dominated the game, really. It's one of the better games the Sixers have played. It's coming off their worst loss of the season. They lose that game on Monday afternoon. They just got the doors blown off them. No Embiid, no George on Monday. But when you see the team with Embiid and George, you kind of get a feel of what they can be. And it's so frustrating because they don't have those guys all the time. But our poll question today, and you guys can vote. We'll update the poll question throughout the show at Mike Gill Show. You guys can vote over there. The poll question today is this. This is what Charles Barkley said on Saturday. Charles Barkley said if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. It's a bold statement, right? It's a bold statement by Sir Charles. You know, the Pistons are 34-11. They are 9.5 games up on the Sixers. But Barkley says if Embiid is healthy, they can't beat the Sixers. Fair or unfair, he said something that caught my attention. It's also the basis of our poll question today. Do you look at the Sixers as true contenders to get out of the East? I'm not asking to win an NBA title, because I think everybody realizes that Oklahoma City is probably the clear favorite. San Antonio is very good. Denver's pretty good, of course, when Jokic is there. But other than that, it's a pretty wide-open field. I would think that Detroit, Boston, the Knicks, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Denver, maybe Houston. It's about as open as you can get. Oklahoma City, I would imagine, by the betting odds, is a clear favorite. And after that, I would imagine it's just like a whitewash of mixed teams just all over the place. Is Philadelphia more deserving to be in that conversation, or are they more deserving to be in, they're within one game of the play-in tournament? That's the difference right now. Actually, they're a half a game out of the play-in tournament. The Sixers are 25-21. The Miami Heat are 25-22. They're a half a game out of the play-in, but they're also 4 games out of the 2 seed. So Miami's having the same discussion where they are right now. But Charles Barkley isn't saying if so-and-so's healthy, they can't beat the Heat. Charles Barkley saying if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. So do you look at the Sixers as true contenders to get out of the East? And the votes are coming in, and it's pretty close right now. I got to be honest, I'm pretty surprised by this. I'm pretty surprised that the votes are as close. Tony is checking in on the X platform. He says, I've been saying for weeks, if this team can stay healthy, big if, they are the scariest team in the East. I don't think we talk enough about the depth on this team, and in my honest opinion, it's unmatched. Fun times. Now, Tony, it's funny you say that. You say I don't think we talk about the depth. I think the depth is there some nights, but it's not there other nights. When Embiid and George don't play, you don't have enough depth. But when they play, it really stretches this team out a lot more impressively. Kevin checks in. He is on the X platform. He says, how many games will Embiid and George play in a 5 or 7 game series? That's the issue. This team will not be able to consistently be in rhythm for a full series if those guys are in and out of the lineup. If they're both fully healthy, I could see them winning the East, but that's a big if. Now, Kevin, that's a fair thing to say, but I'd imagine in the playoffs, no knee management days. That's what they're doing that now for, right? You have left knee management days so that when I get to the playoffs, I don't have those days. I can't imagine game 2 of a playoff series, Joel Embiid out with left knee management. There's no more managing the injury. You get to the playoffs, that's why you manage the injury on Monday afternoon in Charlotte. Agree or disagree? Right? I got waxed in Charlotte on a 3 o'clock in the afternoon game on a Monday in January so that when I'm in game 2 of the playoffs, I don't need left knee management. 609-403-0973. So that's the poll question today. If you want to chime in on that. Where are you guys on this team? Last night's game was fun, by the way. Let's talk a little bit about that before we get into the big picture. I feel like sports has lost the macro level of just looking at the game. We're always looking at the big picture and can I win a title and who's getting traded and what happens if this happens. Last night, Paul George was the Paul George that you sent Dr. J to his house and made him take his shoes off for. That's the Paul George that you say, hey, Doc, can you fly across the country for us and get Paul George to come here and take your shoes off while you're at it? This guy can play 30 minutes a game and score 32. 9 of 15 from 3 last night. Very good defensively, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, couple steals. You take your shoes off for the game that Paul George had last night. You also take your shoes off for the game Joel Embiid had last night. 29 points in 29 minutes with 9 rebounds and 5 assists. And Joel Embiid, again, 6 offensive boards last night for Joel. Starting to assert himself more on the boards, starting to assert himself more on the defensive end of the floor. And obviously he's a high-level scorer that when he's scoring like this, he is tough to stop. You saw the alley-oop pass last night from Maxey to Embiid. Looked like a young whippersnapper out there, Joel. Remember the people telling me he should retire? I don't know how you watch Embiid play. He had a streak of 30 points in how many straight games snapped last night? He scored 29, and yet people would say he needs to retire. I don't know what those people have been watching, but I'm having a lot of fun watching this number 21. Maxey measured last night, 22 points, 9 assists. And VJ Edgecombe, not a great game last night scoring, but, man, he hits the big 3 at the right time. Hits a big 3 here and there. He's 3 for 3 from 3 last night. He gets those tough rebounds, but they need to find the guy on the bench. And I thought last night, you need to find a guy off the bench. And a guy last night we've been talking a lot about this year, Jared McCain. How about the game McCain had last night? How about the game that McCain had last night with no Grimes? McCain got the minutes, the 24 minutes last night. 5 of 6 from 3. There was a moment in the game he hits the 3, and Noah Eagle on the call on NBC last night says, kaboom! And I'm thinking, man, this Jared McCain, if they have this Jared McCain, that makes them a more dangerous team. Jared McCain's the best shooter on the team, right? He's the best shooter of this crew. They lack shooting. McCain has been disappointing. But that McCain last night is the one that you were hoping that you got this year. Now, he's not going to hit 5 of 6 from 3 every game, but if he is unconsciously not thinking about shooting the 3, that's the guy. That's the guy I saw last year. That's the guy that played with joy. That's the guy that had a smile on his face. That's the guy that you got excited about that said, man, they found something in this Jared McCain. Now, how does Nick Nurse work him into the rotation if Grimes is back? Grimes did not play last night. McCain got those 24 minutes. They've got to find a way to get that McCain unlocked. And it's 2 games in a row now because McCain played on Monday. He's the one guy, he came in the garbage game against Charlotte, and the one takeaway from that game in Charlotte, the one takeaway was, yes, I got beat by about 50. But Jared McCain, hey now, welcome to the big show. McCain played 23 minutes in Charlotte, 4 of 8 from 3 for 16 points in 23 minutes. So that's 4 of 8 and 5 for 6. All of a sudden, 9 of 13 from 3 for Jared McCain over the last 2. Now you got something here. Now you got something. Can I get that guy? One time. Can I get that guy? Can I add him into the rotation? And if I can I get McCain to take some minutes away from Maxey and just kind of ease the load off of Maxey? I got to re-energize and reboost the Maxey battery a little bit. And even if it means I got to cut into Quentin Grimes' minutes, because Grimes is starting to hit a little wall right now. Now, I got the All-Star break coming up here. Some of these guys will get to refresh. I don't need to see Embiid at the All-Star game, by the way. No, thank you. Embiid, go home, play some vids, hang out with your wife and Arthur, and have a good time. Come back re-energized for the second half. 609-403-0973. Paul Millville. Paul says, Mike, Sixers look pretty scary tonight when the starters are hitting on cylinders, especially when you get the performance that you got out of Embiid and Paul George. 2 complaints that I have is, why can't we split up Embiid and George on these back-to-backs? All right, we talked about this yesterday with who did we talk about this yesterday with? Oh, it was on the podcast. I do a podcast called Trust the Mics with Michael Kasky-Blomain. You can check out the podcast on X and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. We talked about that. If they would have split Embiid and George up, one of them would have played in Charlotte and got their ass kicked, and then you wouldn't have had them both last night. So I understand what you're saying. Why couldn't they split them up? Hey, listen, it worked out. They weren't going to win in Charlotte with George or Embiid. It might have been a little closer. They might have lost by 20 instead of 50. But what's the difference? Because I'll tell you why, Paul. You don't want to split those guys up because they haven't played together enough. They have to play together. They have to keep playing together. So if I'm playing Embiid without George, now I don't get them two playing together and getting the continuity, right? Says a second complaint. Josh, I'm here. I'm the complaint department today. Send your complaints to me. The second complaint, he says, I have from last night. The Sixers had several chances to finish that game early in the fourth, but could not, which forced Embiid and Maxey to come back in the game. I would disagree with that a little bit. I know what you're saying. Embiid sat on the bench for a long stretch in the fourth, which is why they didn't close that game out. They brought Embiid and Maxey back into the game, which I didn't agree with. The game was over. It was like 132 to 114 with like 2.5 minutes. I said, why is Embiid out here? And somebody hit that three, and it was like, all right, this game is over. And then they finally got it. Maxey fouls the guy on purpose to get everybody out of the game. But, Paul, remember, there was a long stretch in the fourth quarter where Embiid was not in there. That's why they didn't close the game out, because they sat their guys. The game last night, unlike some of the games last week, we were talking about this on the podcast. Playing those guys Monday night, Tuesday night, back-to-back, Maxey's playing over 40 minutes. Well, in the game last night, Embiid plays 29. Maxey's under 40, thankfully. He still played 36 minutes unnecessarily. You're telling me Kyle Lowry, a champion, a veteran, can't give you 8 minutes just so Maxey can not play 40 minutes a night? Good text, though, Paul. That's why they don't play Embiid and George. I think that's why they don't split them up. I think they want those guys playing together. They haven't played together enough in the time that they've been here. Jeff in Ocean City. Let's go! East is open. I'm betting the Sixers to the NBA Finals. It's only been 25 years. Jeff, great text message as always. That's a good bet. What's the odds on that, Josh? Can you look that up for Jeff in Ocean City and Mike in Northfield?
Which bet is that?
Sixers to the Finals.
So, okay, well, I have right now winning the NBA Finals. So I got
just getting to the Finals. Sixers winning the East. What's the bet there?
Let me pull
By the way, did you vote in the poll question?
I did vote in the poll question.
Wow. Do you have a thought?
I vote in the poll question every day that you tag me, Mike.
Okay. Do you have a thought on where the voters are going? Because it's close, and I'm surprised.
I mean,
I figured it would be a hard no.
So the Sixers are plus 1,100 to win the East.
Plus 1,100?
That's the fifth best odds.
Is that a DraftKings?
No, I'm on another site.
Okay.
That will not name because they don't pay us money.
Well, nobody pays us any money.
Well, someone's paying me money, but the problem is that their app is taking forever to update.
Ooh, taking a little swing there. I don't know who that is. I'm going to look on. Look, I don't have.
Number one is.
I don't have a specific one that I use.
So number one is the Celtics. Number two is the Pistons. 3 is the Knicks. 4 is the Cavs. 5 is the. So the Magic and the Sixers are tied at 1,100.
All right, so
for fifth.
The conference for Fanatics Sportsbook, because I was there yesterday. That's why I have that up.
Ocean Casino Resort.
The Eastern Conference, Philly is plus 1,100. Boston's actually the favorite, plus 350.
That's the same on mine.
Detroit plus 360. Knicks plus 360. Cleveland plus 550. Then Philadelphia. Hey, if you want to throw a little shackle down on the Sixers at plus 1,100, might as well.
$10 would be a nice win for you.
That's not bad, Jeff. You know, I still have a bet on Maxey for MVP. Got on that a while ago.
Yes, you did.
Ray and EHT. I agree with Barkley. At full strength, the Sixers healthy. Indeed, the way he looks now, Embiid, I should say. He looks like he voiced to text it. Anytime someone voiced to text is Embiid, it says Indeed, like they're looking for a job.
I saw someone texting about Barkley, but it came out Barclays.
Says, I definitely, all right, let's just say, I agree with Barkley. If the Sixers are at full strength and healthy and Embiid looks the way he does now, they're going to be a tough out for any team. He says, I definitely don't think OKC is a prime to repeat championship when the Spurs have shown they can beat them. I think, look, Oklahoma City has definitely hit some bumps in the road that we didn't foresee a little earlier. Now, that being said, they are the heavy favorite to win the title.
Sixers have the 11th best odds to win the NBA title.
So they're not top 10 yet. Somebody just texted in their ticket. Bet placed, $10 to win $120.
All righty then.
It's like Jeff in Ocean City hitting that one hard.
Yeah,
Sixers are 4 games over 500, down 50 to Charlotte. Like, come on, this team's lucky to go to the second round, Trey and Hamilton. There's Trey and Hamilton. Seems like a real fun guy again.
Trey is the guy who always texted me on the weekend basically trashing the Eagles.
Yeah, it seems like Trey's that guy who just likes to be, hey, everybody's excited over nothing. No, I said, Trey, if you listen, and it seems that you're listening because you did text, so I do appreciate that. I didn't say it. Charles Barkley did. This isn't Mike Gill said, because they won yesterday, let's get all excited. I said Charles Barkley, you may have heard of him. He said it. Now, Trey, they lost to 50 to Charlotte. I don't know if you watch the NBA. It seems like you don't. That happens all the time. On a Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. By the way, they lost to Charlotte down 50. I don't know if you watched the game, Trey. Joel Embiid and Paul George didn't play. It was a Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock. If we're putting a lot of stock into that loss, okay, that you be you. That being said, the point of it is, Trey, do you see, we'll use your name, Trey, do you see 3 teams that you're like, oh, man, they are title contenders? I'll give you Oklahoma City. I'll give you San Antonio. You want to go Detroit?
No.
Is Detroit to you Trey. I like how he signs his name, Trey, in Hamilton. I appreciate that. I love a guy named Trey. Trey Wingo.
Trey Wingo, Trey Songs.
Who are the three most popular Treys you can think of?
Well, you said Trey Wingo.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Songs is the R&B artist.
I don't know who that is.
R&B artist. It's okay.
Johnny Gill is an R&B artist. Trey Songz sounds like a cheap ripoff.
Trey Songz was a hot commodity for a while in the mid 2000s.
Right? I'm just playing Trey.
How about Trey? No, that's Troy. That's
Trey just doesn't sound like a guy that you want to saddle up at the. What's the name of that place out in Hamilton?
There's a lot of places.
Nah, there's a nice Rocco's.
Oh, Rocco's.
You want to go out to Rocco's townhouse, saddle up, and say, Trey, you want to go have a beer tonight? Trey sounds like the guy that's like, dude, Trey, go find another place to hang out tonight. Like, I don't need you tonight, all right? I want to watch the game and enjoy myself. Jim in Williamstown. Check it in.
Who's the most famous Jim you could think of?
There's a lot of those. Trey is the name. There's a guy, Trey. Trey and Hamilton can kick rocks. Such a hater on the weekends with Josh, Jack, and Cape May Courthouse.
Jack listens.
Mm-hmm. Trey Young.
Trey Young.
Yes.
There you go.
Trey says, I'm honest. No, Trey, you're not really honest. You didn't listen all that well. That's all.
That's all.
You're acting like we're all saying, ho, let's get a parade started. All we're asking is, do you look at the East as wide open, or do you say, no, it's not wide open? Yes, they're 4 games over 500. See, that's the thing. Context is king. You could say they're 4 games over 500, but realize that the 4 teams in front of you are also only a handful of games over 500. Like, you just played the Knicks. You have beaten the Knicks twice on their home floor. Now, they came here and beat you. Do you look at the Knicks and say, oh, man, that team's unbeatable? The Knicks have 3 more wins than the Sixers do. So should I be saying, oh, man, Trey, that Knicks team with 3 extra wins? Oh, man, what am I missing? That team's awesome. Like, the Knicks have 3 extra wins than Philadelphia does. And I'm supposed to say, man, Trey, you're right. Now, if his name wasn't Trey, this wouldn't be as good. Big Al and Violin, Rocco's is a good time. Rocco's Townhouse is a superior spot.
Yes. Sorry, I'm still laughing at what you said about Trey's name. I'm going to remember that the next time he texts in now.
Knicks and Cavs are better, so no, it's not wide open. Joel is never healthy. You got to see it to believe it. I mean, I think the Knicks and Cavs are – the Sixers have beaten the Knicks 2 out of 3, twice in New York. Do I think the Knicks are better? Meh. I said when the Knicks lost a couple of years ago, I said the team wasn't as good. Now, they went to the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but this year they haven't been as good. They kind of dropped off a little bit. Are the Cavs better than the Sixers? They just came here and won twice. Hard to argue with that. That being said, both games, the first game the Cavs came in here and kind of took it to you. Right. Second game was a good game. Are they better? You said they're better, so it's not wide open. You could say they're better. I don't think they are miles better. If you think they're significantly better, then we disagree on that. I'll agree with you and say both teams are better, but I don't think it's that big of a gap. How about that? Is that fair to say, or am I off my rocker on that? I don't think the Knicks or the Cavs are so much better than the Sixers are. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Trey, it's all in good fun. I appreciate you, pal. Joel is never healthy. That's fair to say, but what if he is? That was the whole point, Trey. It seems like you didn't listen. Charles Barkley said they can't beat the Sixers if Joel is healthy. That was the basis of the conversation. It seems you missed out on a big part of the conversation. But people are voting at Mike Gill Show. We'll update the poll question in 20 minutes from now. When we come back, what does Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City think? We'll ask him about that and more. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 2:30 Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN. We're going to get into Phillies later on. Eagles OC search. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com, set to join me here to talk a little bit about everything, as always. Mike McGarry, as always, is brought to you today by the Metro Atlantic Basketball Classic, January 29th. It starts tomorrow at Stockton University in Galloway. Tickets are available at metroclassicbasketball.com. Big-time names are going to be here, and Mike can tell you more about it in just a second. VJ Edgecombe played in this. Guys like Cade Cunningham, Karl Anthony Towns, Cooper Flagg, Derek Lively. There's a whole list of their alumni at metroclassicbasketball.com. AC High will play. I believe Middle Township's playing. It all starts tomorrow through the weekend at Stockton University in Galloway. Mike McGarry from the Press of AC. I believe you will also be over there. This is a pretty massive event.
Yeah, it's a big-time event, with a local connection. Mukesh Roy, Mays Landing resident, started it with his brother Priya in 2013. It's been mostly held in New Jersey. And, yeah, it will feature many of the state's top teams, your Plainfield, your Bergen Catholics. And it's really a chance for hoop heads to get a view of NBA players, future NBA players today. You can see them up close. You can get an autograph after the game. You mentioned some of the guys that have played in this event: Scotty Barnes, Karl Anthony Towns, Cooper Flagg. This year you got Julius Event of Bergen Catholic, who is committed to Michigan State from Bergen Catholic, and Deron Ripley, who plays for Blair Academy, a guard who is committed for Duke. So the event's coming to Stockton for the first time, and it's a chance for, local people to really see guys you're going to be watching on TV in a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and this is an event that's been around, who's had these big names, but they generally have done it in, like, North Jersey, and
Yeah.
Dr. Roy is bringing it down here to Stockton. So it's a great opportunity for the people of South Jersey to see the biggest of big-time high school basketball.
Yeah, it's a great event. Like you said, it's been at Franklin High School. It's been at Kane University. And not many of these events come to the Atlantic City area, the greater Atlantic City area, the South Jersey area, whatever you want to call it. It has a local connection with Dr. Roy, who's done a lot for the area. And it's definitely worth getting out there and supporting the events. It gets good support. Maybe it stays, and who knows where it goes from here.
All right, Mike. Well, looking forward to that. Starts tomorrow through the 31st at Stockton University, and some of the top teams in the country will be playing there. You can read more about it at pressofac.com. Mike, Charles Barkley on Saturday was talking about the Sixers. Now, if you watched them Monday, you'd think Barkley was out of his mind. If you watched him yesterday, you would say, okay, Barkley, I can see what you're saying. They played the Knicks. Great game. They're 2-1 against the Knicks. Both teams have won on the other team's floor. Barkley says if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. Is he out of his mind?
No, he's not out of his mind, but the key sentence there is if he's healthy. I agree with Barkley. If those three guys are healthy, Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey, the 76ers can play with any team in the Eastern Conference. So they can beat the Pistons in a series. They can beat the Knicks in a series. They can beat Milwaukee in a series. They can beat Cleveland in a series. The problem, Mike, is twofold. Joel Embiid, after the first round, takes 2 weeks to play, right? Then in the second and third rounds and the championship round, you're playing basically every other day. He's never been able to do it in his career. He's never even entered the playoffs healthy. Once he's been in the playoffs, his injuries increase. So why do we think he's going to be healthy enough to go through a month-and-a-half grind of playing every other day? And the other factor is Paul George. Paul George is older now. If we get the Paul George who played yesterday, who hit 9 threes and was tremendous, again, the 76ers can beat anybody. But take a look at Paul George's game-by-game, outlook. He's just been inconsistent, probably having to do with his age. So if you get the Paul George you got yesterday and you get the Embiid, a healthy Embiid, there's, the Sixers can win the Eastern Conference and go to an NBA final. But I just don't believe that Paul George is going to be consistent enough,
right,
and Embiid's going to be healthy enough for that to happen.
Well, listen, the Paul George you got last night, I joked at the beginning of the show, Mike. I said, that's the guy you make Dr. J take your shoes off for, right? You say, hey, we got that guy, you take your shoes off. Can he be that guy? The question is, though, do they need him to be that guy all the time if Maxi's playing and Edgecombe? That's the thing. When they're healthy, some nights Maxi can score 35. Other nights Embiid can score 35. Every once in a while, Paul George shows you he has that game in you. That's where they're dangerous. And as Noah Eagles said last night during the game, this offense is lethal when they're all playing together. The biggest question is that possible? Like somebody said, I don't know that Embiid can get through a 5 or 7 game series. That's why you're getting left knee management on a Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Charlotte with the hopes, Mike, that he cannot have to sit out game 2 of a playoff series.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I don't know what sitting out a game on a Monday in January, how that's going to help you get ready for a game on a Tuesday in May. To me, it tells you if you can't get out there for the game on Monday, how are you going to play on, Tuesday in May when you just played, 35, 40 minutes in a big playoff game on Sunday. And I, not that I disagree with you, I think you're going to need more consistent effort from Paul George the deeper you go into the playoffs. So maybe the first round you can get away with him being, the third player or being a role guy. Maybe even the second round, but you get to an Eastern Conference final, you're going to need the Paul George that you had yesterday to beat some of these teams. And again, he hasn't consistently shown he's been able to do that in his time in Philadelphia. So, 76ers, one game. If this is the NCAA tournament, hey, sign me up for the 76ers. But this is the NBA, best 4 out of 7. And Embiid's health and George's age and consistency are two issues that, for me at least right now, I don't think the Sixers are going to be able to overcome.
Okay, well, that's, we just watched the Sixers-Knicks on Saturday. They've played 3 times. Phillies up 2-1. One of our text messages that came in said that he doesn't think the Sixers are better than the Knicks. So basically the question was, hey, not can they win the championship, can they get out of the East? Says Knicks and Cavs are better, so he doesn't view the East as being wide open. Do you look at the Knicks clearly better than the Sixers?
No, I don't say the Knicks are clearly better than the 76ers as of today, and that's the great thing about this season. Who knows what I'll be saying a month from now when I'm with you, but as of today, I would say no. Now, a month ago, I would have said yes, because the Knicks have kind of swooned lately. Their own issues have risen up. Their own defensive problems, inconsistent scoring from Karl Anthony Towns have reared its ugly head. So, although I will say this, the 76ers have beaten the Knicks 2 out of 3. One of those games was a guaranteed sort of what Doc Rivers calls one of the scheduled losses. It came right after the NBA Cup. The Knicks had played 3 games in 4 nights. The Sixers have been off for 4 or 5 days. If the Sixers didn't win that game, there should have been an investigation. So, but I agree that right now, I would put the 76ers in that group with the Knicks, with Cleveland, with Detroit. I think the East is wide open because no team has shown to me, and especially a Knicks team, and people know how I feel about the Knicks, but a Knicks team that I believe at one point was 2-9 in its last 11 games, how in my right mind am I going to say that they're the favorite to win the East? I think the NBA East is wide open.
Yeah, wide open, I would agree. Detroit, they have no track record of this. So this is one of those things that they're going to have to prove if they hold on all season that they can win when the games get a little tougher. That's their big question mark right now. And I think everybody feels like Oklahoma City, you got San Antonio, should be fun. I'll tell you one thing that's different about this Sixer season. The last couple seasons, Mike, it's been, get back to me in the playoffs. This year, you're watching every night to watch Maxey grow with Edgecombe. Last night you saw McCain say, hey, don't forget about me. And then you're kind of watching these young guys kind of grow and play together. So you kind of are like, you know what? I want to watch tonight to see the growth of this crew as opposed to seeing it, done it, get me to the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way it's supposed to work. And I believe Edgecombe has made a big difference in that area, because you can't tell me it's the same old 76ers when you have a rookie like Edgecombe who has come in and created that sort of excitement. So I think this is a fun team to watch. Knox, he's a fun player to watch. Edgecombe is a fun player to watch. Embiid, the last couple of weeks when he has been on the court, I can't remember in my lifetime too many 7-foot big men with his offensive skills. So they are a fun team to watch. The only thing that prevents me from going all in is Embiid's past injury history and George's age and health and inconsistency. So, and then I think, Mike, too, the fact that you have the NBA East wide open because of whatever factors, injuries, this or that, also adds to the excitement around the team. People can literally see the 76ers maybe making a run in the playoffs because there isn't the 60-win Boston Celtics kind of lurking there in the future.
All right, Mike, let's shift over to the Phillies a little bit here. They lose Harrison Bader. It didn't look like he was going to come back anyway, but one of the questions was, you signed Adolis Garcia 1 year, $10 million. Would you rather just given Bader 2 years, $20 million, essentially two 10-year, $10 million deals?
No, I like the way the 76ers, the Phillies outfield situation, how they've handled it. And I'll explain to you this. First of all, Harrison Bader, nice player, but 31 years old, coming off a career year. I saw him play with the Yankees, wasn't that great. Saw him play with the Mets, wasn't that great. I'd be wary of signing a guy off a career year. I mean, I look at what some people are saying. You think this guy was Mickey Mantle or something, the way people are talking right now. I think you need the right fielder. You got Garcia. He's a question mark. Harrison Bader would be a question mark. But here's the big thing, Mike. You got to give Justin Crawford a chance to play. The same people that are yelling about not signing Harrison Bader would be the same people yelling a year from now saying, this is just like 2011, 2012. They let the team grow old. They didn't get any young players into the lineup. They didn't bring up any prospects. So I think Justin Crawford has earned the right to play. He's a first-round high draft choice of this organization. And the place where he has to play, given his skill set, is center field. So you got to give the kid a chance to play. And if you bring back Harrison Bader, you're not playing in Crawford in center field. So to me, it's an easy choice. I'm playing Crawford over Bader. I let Bader go to somebody else. And Garcia in right field, an upgrade defensively, who can hit for power with some question marks. Maybe he can get back to his 2023 form. Maybe he can't. But the love for Harrison Bader, did a nice job this year. Let's not forget, Mike, injured against the Dodgers, barely played. So, again, you think that, Duke Snyder had walked out the door, for God's sake.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. I wouldn't have mind if Bader would have said, I'll take a 1-year deal. You play him in center, because a lot of reports have been that Crawford is better suited for left. You play Crawford in left and then a Marsh-Garcia platoon in right field. You just don't know what they told Garcia, and they might not want to go down the road that what happened with Kepler last year.
Right. I mean, they probably told – we don't know what they told Garcia, but we can figure it out, that they probably told him, we want you to come here and be our everyday right fielder. So, again, great point. They kind of said that to Max Kepler last year, and it didn't exactly work out like that. So, again, to get Garcia, they probably had to make that promise. Here's the other thing, Mike. I mean, Harrison Bader is making $10 million a year. It's not like another team came in and swooped him up. I mean, he got like 2 years, $20 million. So it's not like, the Phillies misread the market or whatever. I would rather have Brandon Marsh at $5 million a year in left field as part of a platoon, because I think you save, $5 or $10 million over 2 years. And if Crawford is going to play, before you play him in left, you maximize his value by seeing he can play center field. Left field, right field are kind of power positions. Crawford does not hit for power. He is the prototypical center fielder that we imagine, fast, doubles, singles, a get-on-base type of guy. That's the profile of a center fielder, not a left fielder. So I think you got to give this kid a chance to play because, Mike, I listened to it in 2012, 2013, 2014. The same fans complaining that you let the 31-year-old Harrison Bader walk out the door were the same fans back then saying the team got old. How do we not have any prospects in the lineup? You have Justin Crawford. He's earned the right to play. You got to play him and see if he can play center field.
Mike McGarry for the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. By the way, tomorrow that Metro Atlantic Basketball Classic starts at Stockton. Tickets are at metroclassicbasketball.com. And Mike's got a full write-up about it over at pressofatlanticcity.com so you can check out more on the event. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike, we'll see you down the road. Always good talking to you.
Absolutely. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He's buying in a little bit to the Sixers like everybody else if they're healthy. That has been the problem for a lifetime, a decade. When we come back, we'll get the poll question up to date. Are you buying into the Sixers? Do you think they can get out of the East? Charles Barkley said so. We'll see what you guys think coming up next on the Sports Bash. All right, 251 Sports Bash Live. Our poll question is up right now, and you can vote at Mike Gill Show. You can also watch the show at Mike Gill Show on the Twitter X platform and on YouTube, 97.3 ESPN. Go to YouTube. We love the people watching on YouTube who comment and chat throughout the show. Jeff is watching on YouTube. Jeff's always a good watcher, good viewer. Says, will the Sixers, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty fan? Well, let's find out, Jeff. Let's get the poll question up to date right now here at Mike Gill Show. Josh, the poll question today is, if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. That's what Charles Barkley said on Saturday. So our poll question today is, do you look at the Sixers as a true contender to get out of the East? First Precinct, Salem County, voting first here. You like that one, huh?
It's funny. I enjoy it.
53 to 46. Very close. 53 to 46. Do the listeners look at the Sixers as a true contender, yes or no?
I think that enough people were intoxicated by last night's game to say yes.
Well, they just saw them lose by 50 on Monday.
But it's what you've done for me lately. What was the most recent thing you saw last night?
Well, the 50-point, they didn't lose by 50, but they were down by 50, so everybody just says
rational,
50.
Mike, you know this. Come on.
53.7%, yes. They look at the Sixers as true contenders to get out of the East. 46.3% say no. I am shocked by this.
I'm not. I think people want something to like. They want something to enjoy. They saw something last night that they can connect with.
That's fair. People want to believe, but I think with the Sixers, they don't believe. But maybe I'm wrong.
I had two buddies of mine texting me last night. This is the Sixers team I've been waiting for. You know, and my one buddy, I mean, he is like, he'll complain. He texts me after every Sixers game, like without fail, every year of my life. So, like, and he's like, this is the team we've been waiting for. So people are excited.
Speaking of the Sixers, our buddy Austin Krell covers the Sixers from Sports Illustrated at 3:30 today. When we come back, early Nuggets. Knicks Nuggets at 3 o'clock. Q Myers at 4:30 today. Football at 4. Jeff Mosher, the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. We got it all for you right here on the Sports Bash Live. Keep voting at Mike Gill Show and let us know. Are the Sixers, in your mind, true contenders to get out of the East? I'm not saying to win a championship, although, look, if you're in the NBA Finals, I guess you're a true contender. He could have been a contender. By the way, Trey from Fish, that was the one I was thinking of. That's a big Trey. All right, 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service, and installation. For more on how they can help you out, 609-390-3907. All right, Nick Earnshaw, early edition of the Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We bring him into the show. We get a little bit more on all the stuff that's happening. We got a lot going on, Nugs. We have big Sixer win last night. Also, we have no offensive coordinator yet. Just a rudderless ship running the offense. That might be a good thing. Let's see what we have for today's edition of the Nuggets.
Yeah, I think, just have nobody call the plays. Just send them out in the field. Let the team figure it out. Just let them do that. They actually might have a better offense. I mean, rank a little bit higher next year if they don't even have anybody call the plays. Let Hurts, let Devontae Smith, maybe even Cam Jurgens, if Lane Johnson's back. Let those guys figure it out when they get on the field. All right, what should we call here? You probably have a better offense.
Maybe. I mean, if you just had guys running like playground routes, maybe you can see some things materialize a little bit better.
They might not run a hitch route again if they are out there without a coordinator. That might not ever happen again. So, no, but there's a lot to talk about. It's a busy news day in the sports world. I want to start. We're going to talk a lot of basketball here on the Nuggets today. I got about 20 minutes here, so I want to get into some basketball because a lot going on. It's going to reshape kind of the league a little bit and affect the Sixers. Nugget number one is this Giannis news, okay? Shams Charania, who will also be in the Celebrity All-Star game, by the way, not just reporting news. He's going to be playing, so you're going to see him, not behind the phone and the phone screen. He's going to be playing basketball very soon. He tweets out this morning, two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is ready for a new home at the February 5th NBA trade deadline or in the offseason as several rival teams make aggressive offers to the Milwaukee Bucks for him, and the franchise is starting to listen, according to ESPN and Shams. And a couple of teams that have been named that he's interested in going to are the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, are just two to be named as contenders for Milwaukee's Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, the New York Knicks thing's interesting. The Sixers, they had that series a couple of years ago, played them tough, just lost to them last weekend, have won twice against them at the Garden this year. That's a team in the East that you'd have to get through to get to the finals if you are the Sixers, right? Like, if you stay healthy, and we'll get to the Sixers in a second, but the Giannis news, I think, is going to shake up the league because I think the thing in that report is he could be traded in the offseason. So they could hold on to him past the deadline. But if you're the New York Knicks, Bridges, Cat, all these names, those are names that could be moved. Josh Hart. Is that worth it if you're the New York Knicks for Giannis Antetokounmpo mid-season to move on from all those guys to change the entire dynamics of your roster? And if you're the Sixers, would you be scared of a team like that if they traded all of their pieces the way they've been cohesive over the past couple of years for the big-time superstar? And our team's kind of, cautious about doing that anymore.
If you're the Knicks, I mean, do you look at yourself and say, we're good enough? I've been saying for 2 years, I don't think the Knicks are better. When they got rid of Hartenstein and went down the road of Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns, when they did that, I said, I don't think this team's better. Now, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and that got everybody saying, you were wrong, you were wrong. I said, for now I am. But the big picture, I don't think they're better. So if I'm the Knicks, I do think about shaking something up because I'm not winning a title with Karl Anthony Towns. It's not happening.
No. And we've seen Joel Embiid have a masterclass against him almost every time they play. I mean, even on that game on Saturday, he had a lot of success. He fouled out of the game. He forced Cat to foul out. So that's a matchup you got to worry about, right? Like that, you got to keep that. If you're the Sixers, just keep an eye on that. But it begs a larger question, Mike. Are teams more cautious of going to the big name, the big star, blowing up their entire roster just to get one guy? I mean, we've seen the Thunder, who will actually sign Hartenstein from the Knicks, win a championship last year as a cohesive unit. I know they have SGA, but going after these big-time stars anymore and pairing like the Brunsons and the Giannis Antetokounmpo of the world, having these big names and like have nothing else after that, no depth, they've run into problems time and time again, especially over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, and listen, I definitely think the Giannis thing. Look, they're like 3-12 without him. They're 15-15 with him. Wherever he may end up, certainly changes the fortune of that team. But he's been hurt a lot. He has been banged up. So you would have to say if he's healthy, much like you do with Joel Embiid and Paul George, if they're healthy. Now, any team he goes to, and obviously you mentioned the Knicks. I think another team. Josh and I were talking about this before the show. He thinks that Oklahoma City, with all the draft picks that they have, if they want to just say, you know what, we won last year, we're slipping a little this year. You know, the Spurs have given us a little bit of problems. Why don't we add Giannis Antetokounmpo to our mix and see how that changes us? That would be interesting. But is there a team out there that is saying we're right? You know, because our poll question today is, are the Sixers true contenders to get out of the East? Charles Barkley said, if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers, which I think is a little off his rocker, but I understand with Embiid and George, they're every bit as good as anybody else in the East and virtually in the league other than probably Oklahoma City and the Spurs. The league is so wide open outside of everybody thinks Oklahoma City. But what team is saying, we're in the mix with everybody else? Giannis pulls us towards the Oklahoma City level. Which team is that? I don't know. Is it Cleveland? You know, would the Bucks trade with Cleveland? Would the Bucks trade to the East? He says he wants to go to an Eastern Conference team. It sounds like you said Knicks. Heat would be another one. Or do they say, look, we'll trade you, but it's got to be to the West? I don't know. But what team feels like changes them from in the pack with everybody else to separating them from the pack? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Thunder point's interesting because they have the capital to do it. Would they want to do it? I don't know.
Problem with the Thunder, as I see it, I guess I don't have the trade machine in front of me, is who makes any money to match Giannis's money?
Right. You'd have to package a large contingent of players. That would be the problem.
With the Thunder is they don't have a lot of guys that make a lot of money yet.
That's the problem. And I think if you're a team out there for Giannis, they're going to want a king's ransom, right? They're going to want first. You're going to have the money match, so that could be a problem. If you're like in the situation of the Thunder, you don't have a superstar really with the big time contract because you're not going to trade SGA or anything like that. You don't have a guy on that second contract yet because you're so young. You're going to have to package a ton of players together.
I'm on the trade machine.
Oh, you pulled it up?
Yeah, Giannis would go one side. I mean, you could trade Caruso, Dort, and that would get it done, but you're not taking – would you take Caruso and Dort, maybe Chet Holmgren or Isaiah Joe? But, like, you're in that range, and then you're basically saying we're giving you a draft capital out the yin-yang. But they do actually have some players to match the money. They actually have more players to match the money than I thought.
It would have to be a couple of players though, and would the Bucks want to do that too? Right, like they want to get a decent package back, and then I think they said in their package. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh. The Bucks are looking for draft choices. They want to get like a lot of draft picks, so they might say the problem with Caruso, for instance, he's got 4 years left on his deal. Yeah,
Dort has 2. I mean. Andrew Wiggins has 4. You don't want Caruso and Wiggins. They have 4 years left. But do you take Dort for 2 years, Chet Holmgren for 1? Now that money equals out, and then you just take a treasure chest of players. Go ahead.
Yeah, so really quick. So for those who don't know part of the story here, one of the reasons why the Bucks really want picks is because of who the new owner is. The owners are the Haslams, who also own the Browns. They
own the Bucks?
They're the majority owners right now.
Don't the Bucks rotate their owners like every couple of years?
Yes. But
seriously, you're laughing, but that's true.
He's in the rotation now.
It's like because the Coles own the Bucks, didn't they? The store, Cole, well, the family.
That was years ago.
So they sold it to this new group.
So this is the third iteration. Is the Haslams now from the Coles? But anyway, the point is that the Haslams have talked with the other minority and majority owners about how if they're going to move on from Giannis, they want to do a full reset.
Yeah. And by the way, Giannis has 3 years left on his deals.
Correct.
Just to throw that out there.
So,
he just signed.
So that's why a team like Oklahoma City makes a lot of sense for a trade because they want the draft picks. They don't just want the players.
There you go.
Yeah, and they have the capital to do it. Can they make the money work? That's what you need to do. And what you just kind of laid out, will that be enough for the Bucks? Depending on what other offers they get, and they also have to appease Giannis Antetokounmpo as one of the teams destinations he wants to go to as well. So a lot of mitigating factors here.
By the way, so the full gambit of the ownership group are Jimmy and Dee Haslam, Wes Edens, who's basically owned a piece of the team for a very long time, Mike Festelli, who he has owned the team for a long time, and then you have an investor group led by Jamie Dimon and Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron
How about
Rodgers,
that?
There you go.
A-Rod in there.
Information I could live without.
I'm here to help.
But it brings back to the Sixers, and we had talked about it. Would you trade VJ? Would you add a package over there? I would. If you're the Sixers, I would not make the move at all. I wouldn't even. I mean, you do your due diligence, but I think VJ is where Maxey was a couple years ago. He is untouchable at this point, untouchable. But players like Giannis don't come around very often. However, he's had the same problem Embiid has had. Can't stay healthy. That's been a problem for him.
Yeah, I mean, do I trade VJ? I don't think so. I think right now I'm at the point where I've turned the corner from the Embiid era to the Maxey Edgecombe era that Embiid just happens to be a part of at a high level right now. Embiid's playing at a pretty high level. So I'm going to maximize these last couple years of Embiid as much as I can while I'm turning it over to Edgecombe and Maxey. So when these 3 years are up, those guys are now hitting their primes together.
Well, guys, Mike, guess what? Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say, isn't part of this also the idea that you want the Sixers in the current iteration to kind of function like the Lakers did in the 90s, where you have the older former MVP, back then it was Kareem, but that guy is not the priority. The priority is the guards that you drafted. And back then for the Lakers, it was guys like, obviously, Magic Johnson, but it was also guys like Michael Cooper and Byron Scott and James Worthy. Let the young guys come into their own and take control of this, right?
That's what the Sixers are trying to do. They're trying to kind of have – look, you sign Embiid to this extension. You got Paul George. You were hoping it was going to be those two. You've now lucked out that Maxey has turned into a superstar, and Edgecombe is now on the precipice of joining him there. So now you have two guys who are on the back end of their star careers, coupled with two guys who are joining them all at the same time. You kind of luck out that last year was as bad as it was, and you end up with Edgecombe.
Yeah, and listen, they got some good PR kind of moving in that direction. I mean, VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey cover Slam Magazine, newest edition. I don't know if you saw that. I mean, it's got to putting in the new iteration of the Sixers on the front page and literally and the precipice of this is the next era we're moving into with these two as the duo. So, I mean, that came out today, Mike.
I saw the Slam cover with those two
We'll
guys
buy
on
it.
it.
Yep. We'll buy it.
We'll buy it. Why don't you get it framed?
I probably will. I have the other Maxey one framed in my office, so I will get it framed. I'm a big collectible guy. You know that about me. I'm a big collectible guy. So, no, that's out today. But speaking of Joel Embiid, we invoked his name a couple of times. We were talking about the Bucks. We're talking about Sixers, Embiid. Former Sixer coach Doc Rivers had a glowing review of Joel Embiid before last night's game. Nugget number 2. Take a listen to this.
I was telling a very, very, very Hall of Fame player that I coached that Joel's the most talented player that I ever coached. And he was like, what? And I was like, he is. It's the things that you guys see and then the things you actually don't see in practice sometimes that he can do. It's incredible. It really is. Unfortunately for me, I never had him healthy once in the playoffs. He wasn't healthy last year. He wasn't healthy the year before. That's 5 years straight, I think. And if he ever gets to the playoffs healthy, especially with they've added some big pieces here, they're going to be a dangerous team.
So there's Doc Rivers before the game last night. Probably didn't help Giannis wanting to stay with the Bucks saying that because he's coached Giannis, he's coached KG, plenty of other players in the past.
I love Doc.
I loved it.
I love Doc. Woe is me. I never had him healthy.
Yeah. You had to make an excuse. He had to throw that in there. He had to make an excuse.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not. But, he always got like, well, I never had him healthy. I could never go to over the hump, etc. Blah, blah, blah. We know, Doc. But I thought that was fascinating that he had praise for Joel, to say the least. And, if he wasn't the best player, he's definitely close to it that he's coached in his career. So, and after the game last night, the Sixers come away with a big win. They get back on track. Everybody played. Everyone kind of looked good, filled their role. You actually had a Paul George game. He stepped up last night. Joel, after the game, talked about how happy he was. Something's different. So you have a different feel. And we talked about it throughout the year. And when that article came out on ESPN over the summer, and you kind of knew Joel was not in a great spot, this year seems much different. He's happier. He's kind of doing the Troel thing, trolling a little bit, and he's dunking. I mean, he had an alley-oop last night. I mean, they said 4 years? Maxey said 4 years at halftime. That was last time they alley-ooped together. So there's a different feel. Joel's filling his role, but he's not the same player as he was, but man, he's still really good.
Look, Joel, it is unbelievable considering there's nobody out there.
No.
Everybody thought the guy was done. There's nobody out there that, number one, thought he'd be ready to start the season. Not only does he start the season, he played in a preseason game, which I thought was like, holy mackerel.
I thought it was asinine.
Preseason game. And he looked pretty good in that preseason game. And then after that, he just didn't look himself. And then he kind of, scuttled through the first month of the season. We were like, this is kind of uncomfortable. Then he was kind of finding himself. And I just kept kind of saying, you know what? I'll hold off judgment until March. Let me see how he looks at the end of the year as he kind of goes through. I don't need to wait till March, really. I mean, I only think he's getting better and better and better, but you start to see him even more assertive in the offense. But now he's starting to assert himself a little bit more. Like on the beginning of the year, defensively, he was awful. Now he's starting to rebound a little bit more. Their team, I saw this stat the other day. This is unbelievable. When Joel Embiid is on the floor, they are the best defensive team in terms of rim protection in the paint in the entire league. Pretty crazy to think about because they don't rebound all that well.
No.
And he doesn't, he's not like the same rim protector that he was, but you see that he still has a presence that teams are aware that he's there.
His presence alone changes the dynamics of everything. I wasn't sure he was going to be the same player again. I don't think anybody was even close to it.
I kept telling people, I think he'll be fine this year. I tweeted out, it'll be the same Joel. He'll play about 50 games. He's going to be Joel. What does that mean? People said he'll score 30 points. He'll grab 8 rebounds. He'll be Joel Embiid. But I said about 50 games. He'll be in about that range. But he's exceeded what I thought he would be.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely exceeded expectations. You just hope, and I put it out last night on Instagram, you hope it's the 1 year little IG action. That this is the year he, what Doc was talking about, he could be healthy, right?
Well,
just get him to the postseason, man. Just give him 1 year to have a shot at it. Just one.
This is what somebody said to me before was can he get through 5 to 7 game playoff series? I said, I don't know the answer to that question, but that's why he doesn't play on Monday afternoon with left knee management, because they're hoping if he does the left knee management on Monday at 3 o'clock in Charlotte, that he doesn't have to do it for game 3 in the playoffs.
Yeah, that you're not going to get the Shams Charania notification. Hey, he tore his meniscus again, because that seemed like that it was happening every single year. And that's the whole point of why he's not playing back-to-backs, why he sits out certain nights where they're just trying to manage his load at this point, right? They're just trying to manage how many games he's playing, etc.
Pretty much. And then somebody said, why don't they stagger George and Embiid? My answer to that would be they want those guys to play together because they simply haven't played together enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough to balance. I wouldn't want to be Nick Nurse. It's a tough job, man. It's not easy to build a cohesive unit when guys are in and out of the lineup every night. But it seems like they've built a little bit of camaraderie so far this season, which has been nice to see. But hey, a lot of basketball left, a lot of time left, a lot can change at that point. But I want to get one more nugget in before we go. The NFL Hall of Fame made a mistake yesterday. And I don't want to defend the Patriots or anything like that, but Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame, first ballot, might be one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I know he had a history of Spygate and all that stuff, but I mean, come on. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Are we crazy? Are we crazy here, Mike? I thought that was just ridiculous. Absolutely insane.
Well, I don't really care at all about this because Hall of Fames have lost me with the way they do business. Yeah, don't care. The Hall of
I think
Fames,
it's fair.
to me, it's sad that you play with the hopes of becoming immortal as a Hall of Famer. But the way the Hall of Fames in all sports have done business, it's the halls of very good. It's the halls of, well, I'm going to play heaven and hell here and say, well, you may have done steroids, or even if you did steroids, listen, don't care. He played the game. I watched him. You could put him in the freaking museum so I can read about what he did wrong. Same with Bill Belichick. If you're holding it against him because he was a part of Spygate or all that stuff, you tell the story in the museum. You don't do these kind of things. So to me, all of these halls of fame have been unfortunately tarnished.
I think it's a fair assessment. Like, it's the Hall of Pettiness anymore for the most part, especially baseball, now football. I mean, come on. It's a museum. You're supposed to talk about the history of the game, what this person's impact was. If you have to have a negative line on his bust or on the on one of the plaques, fine. You're telling the story of the person and how they impacted the game, whether it's positive or negative, in my opinion. Because you go to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, Pete Rose is upstairs in the museum part where it's, they're going through the years, the history of the game. He doesn't have a plaque downstairs. Like, you go down one level, his plaque's not there. I mean, are you kidding me? This is how stupid it is. Stupid it is. What sense does that make? Oh, we can't put him in. Well, you can't put him downstairs, but you can put a picture of him upstairs. You're telling the story up there, tell it downstairs too. You know what I'm saying? So I feel your aggravation and why you're out on this whole thing, because it's the Hall of Pettiness anymore in a majority of sports.
Yeah, I don't really need some voters to tell me who is and who isn't a Hall of Famer because they've done a lousy job at it.
Yeah, especially over the, I don't know, past 20 or so years.
Sadly, we didn't even talk about it this year, the Baseball Hall of Fame. Carlos Beltran, who, by the way, is one of my favorite players all time. Love Carlos Beltran till he went to the Mets. But when he played in Kansas City and Houston, loved him. He's not a Hall of Famer. Carlos Beltran is not a Hall of Fame baseball player, and he's one of my favorite players of all time. It's a stupid question. Chase Utley a Hall of Famer? No, Chase Utley is not a Hall of Fame player. Like, what are we doing? If we're asking this question, it's all because we watched him play here. And because I watched him play here, I can say with 100% that Chase Utley is not a Hall of Famer. Like, stop it. These guys aren't Hall of Fame players. They're very good players. Chase Utley had a run for about 5 years. He was really good. A Hall of Famer is a guy who's good for a decade, a career. Not, hey, I hung on in the last 6 years of my career. I was just Chase Utley, the last couple of years of his career, was a nothing burger. He was good for a window. He was good in the Phillies window, which, guess what, was pretty small when you look at it. He was good from like 11, from like 7 to about 11 and 12. That's like a 5 to 6 year run there. That's not a Hall of Fame career. That's a good run. So these voters are idiots is the problem.
I'm glad I could get that out of you today. I am glad. I am glad. We started with a little positive with the Sixers, and then that's how we got to it.
I enjoyed it.
I'm good. That's good. Early Nuggets today. Early Nuggets.
All right, we'll do the Nuggets again tomorrow. We're going to be in San Francisco this time next week. Will be our first show at Radio Row. We're starting to get the more guests. By the way, we told you yesterday, Donovan McNabb, Nakobe Dean. Looks like Cam Jurgens is going to be on the Sports Bash as well. We're trying to put that together. So once we get the full list, we'll start releasing. But we're talking to a couple of these names. It looks like we're going to have a good guest list for Radio Row. And you'll be there.
I'm excited.
We'll see you there.
See you there. Talk to you.
See you. All right, Sports Bash Live. There's the Nuggets today on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, we'll ask Austin Krell from Sports Illustrated. He covers the Sixers. What does he think about this team? He's there every night. He gets a good sense of this team. Are they really a contender in the East? We'll get Austin Krell's take on it coming up next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 3:30 Sports Bass Live, 97.3 ESPN. Sixers off tonight. They're back in action tomorrow. And you can listen to that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers tomorrow taking on the Kings. They got a nice little schedule here. Kings and Pelicans on Saturday. Clippers, who, by the way, who have been on a heater. Clippers on Monday. They start a West Coast trip with the Clippers. We're going to be at the game on Tuesday night in San Francisco. The whole crew will be in San Fran. We're going to go to Sixers Warriors on Tuesday night, and then we'll be live from Radio Row Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The Sixers will be at L.A. against the Lakers on Thursday. That is the trade deadline day. We'll talk more Sixers now. Austin Krell, Sports Illustrated, covers the Sixers, and he joins us after a impressive win last night after a terrible loss on Monday. They got blasted on Monday. No Joel, no Paul George. But those two guys, much more ammunition and help last night. And right now, we'll talk more about it. Austin Krell from Sports Illustrated joins me back on the Sports Bash. What's up, man?
How you doing? Thanks for having me, as always.
All good. All good. Good to see you, man. And, of course, last night, good night for the Sixers. Just shows you how much different they are. I said Paul George. The Paul George you got last night's the one that you take your shoes off to recruit Dr. J. You say, I'll go get that guy, help him out there. But it just shows you how much different they are when those two guys play. Charles Barkley said something on Saturday. He said, if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. Is that outrageous, or you see them every night? Is that fair?
I think it's fair in that. Well, no. So I don't think it's outrageous. Wait.
You're like, I want to hear Charles say this in the. What tone did he use?
I think it's unfair to the Pistons to say that they could not beat the Sixers because they've laid a very solid foundation the last 2 years. They've been doing this all season long. They deserve some equity for what they've done thus far this season. I also have covered the Sixers for 6 years. I've seen them, not respond to physicality in big moments. Interpret that as you might, but that's the nice way of saying it. So I would say that I think there are warts the Pistons have. They're not a great shooting team. That can hurt you come playoff time, especially with spacing. But they have really physical defenders. They have a superstar point guard. I would certainly say that it would be a good series, but to say that the Pistons can't win, I think is illogical.
Yeah, I was surprised that he said it, but I think it shows the notion of how wide open the East is.
Yes.
So where do you put Philly with Boston? Because people aren't talking about Boston because of the Tatum thing, but that team's pretty interesting, pretty tough. They might get Tatum back. They might make a trade. You got the Knicks. You got the Cavs. You got the Raptors in there. Wide open, or is there a hierarchy?
What's funny about Boston is I don't really quite get why they're rushing Tatum back, because you kind of have this template and blueprint for, like, if we give him a full year off in the summer to recuperate from the Achilles. We saw what happened with Durant. Durant came back and was fine. So I'm kind of surprised that they're like, oh, certainly, like, we gotta get Tatum back. But to answer your question, I look up and down the conference, and it's something that I'm going to write soon. But, like, as weird as the Sixers are, and as you know, they're very up and down at home. They have these weird games. Their third quarters are an issue. They've beaten they've beaten the Celtics twice. They've beaten the Knicks twice. They've played Detroit closely twice without Embiid. The only team they haven't really figured out is Cleveland. So I would say that you look up and down the conference, and yeah, it's certainly wide open. Can they win the way that they are right now? I think it's possible. I wouldn't be like stunned by it. Do I think that they need to, and it would behoove them and their chances to make to make a move? Yeah, I do.
So let's talk about that. Next week, Thursday, it's a trade deadline. Sixers in a precarious spot here. How does Austin Krell see the Sixers at the deadline?
Well, I think they have three big things that are really hurting them. the shooting is one. Like their shooting is just so up and down. Number two, the guard play behind Tyrese has just been so helter skelter. They really got off to a good start this season because of how good the guard play was, and since then, it's tanked. And I mean, Quentin Grimes has been the favorite in the rotation all season long, and I don't think he separated himself from Jared McCain, who's been dreadful for most of the season. So, I mean, I'm inclined to say that like it would be good to have another offensive spark in that second unit just to make life easier for whoever is not in the game, with Tyrese. And then like their dribble penetration is defense is just the worst. Like I mean, that's a little bit hyperbole, but look at how they give up shots every night. It's that a guy is over helping into the paint because they've given up a drive, and then that guy is finding a shooter open on the other side of the floor, and they lose games like that all the time. And that's not one guy who's going to solve that. That's going to be, a change in the scheme, multiple guys that can help solve that. But I think you're going to have to make a decision, lean into either your defense getting better or your offense getting better. I think the easier thing to answer is the offense, probably.
So you mentioned McCain. He's got 2 straight games back-to-back. Grimes didn't play last night, and he's been kind of slipping off a little bit. Do you look at
a lot
McCain, of it? Yes. Do you look at McCain as a guy that the second half can regain, or is he a guy that's fallen so much out of favor with Nurse that he can't find himself back into the rotation?
I would say this. I think.
Now, by the way, I'm assuming that he's fallen out of favor with Nurse due to his lack of usage. You're around him. Maybe it's not that. Maybe they just don't think he's quote unquote back or ready yet.
Well, I think number one, like you're a shoot first guard who trends to be on the smaller side of the guard spectrum, right? So you're going to be a defensive mismatch for a lot of teams. Even though Jared's strong, he's like still is not. He's not foolproof on defense. So like, is the shot falling is always going to be a big factor for him. And for the longest time this season, it wasn't. He couldn't get any separation, and maybe he just caught a heater last night. Maybe he felt good after the Charlotte game because he had a really good fourth quarter when they were getting their doors blown off. Carries over to last night, and maybe that opens the discussion. But I can't impress upon people enough that like I don't think either of them have separated from each other. Like Quentin has not played well enough to have a steadfast.
I agree, and I'm a McCain guy. I will say, in his few opportunities, he has not taken it either. True or false?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, neither of them have taken it.
The last 2 nights, right? Last night, 5 of 6. The night before, I think he's 4 of 8 or something from 3. Maybe the knee, then the thumb. Maybe he's finally kind of finding some rhythm a little bit. And if they can get that version of McCain in the second half, how different does that make them?
Well, you look at their record, you look at the handful of games they've already lost that are like they had it in their grasp and they lost by a possession or so. Their point differential is pretty neutral. I think if you can get one offensive spark just to make those non-Embiid, non-George games easier to help, and even the games they do play when they're on the bench and you just get a second offensive force out there, could really help them win some of those minutes that they're losing, that the big guys are not are not playing. And I mean, we're talking about a team here that when like their margin of error is that slim on a night-to-night basis, it's 1,000 different things causing it, right? It's rebounding, it's the opponent shooting, whatever. So I do think that one of the things that they can do to make themselves better second half of the year and get some separation in the conference is by just getting another guard, whether it be in-house or out of house, in there that can shoot the ball. Not even just like shooting is one thing, just to get some offensive juice. Anyone.
Yeah. Talking with Austin Krell from Sports Illustrated, covers the 76ers, and fun game last night. Let's first off, the where the team is right now. They need rebounding, that's for sure. I mean, they can't rebound a lick because Embiid is not a great rebounder. Even when he is an MVP level player, he's not a great rebounder. They're trying to move Drummond. What's your take on the whole, or I guess being reported that they're trying to move Drummond? He's the only guy on the team that can rebound. What is the messaging here if they move a Drummond or an Oubre and do nothing else?
Well, the messaging is a it's a funny one. If you consult your local accountant, we'll say they are getting very close to the tax line if they can move. If they do decide to move off of Drummond and or Oubre, and if they can get below the tax line, that would save some money. As bills become due, we'll say. And so that is something that they've done historically. They did it even the year that they had James Harden for the full year when they traded Matisse Thybulle. Now, I would have argued back then that Matisse Thybulle and Jalen McDaniels were basically a lateral move. It didn't really change much. But you look at this team, look at this conference, I think it would send a poor message to the fans, to the players on this team, if you're like, yeah, you guys have a chance, but we're still going to sell off at the deadline. And by the way, it's not like both guys are, dead money sitting at the end of the bench.
Yeah.
Oubre's in the starting lineup right now.
Yeah, because you do have two guys dead sitting on the end of the bench not helping out. I mean, I think Lowry might help out as a coach more than he does anything else, but so having him there might have some value. Gordon absolutely does nothing. Let's have a little fun with Austin Krell. Would you get involved in the Giannis stuff, or is this not interesting?
This has dominated my group chat all day long. And I'll say this. So, like, all the things that we ding Joel for and the things that make us skeptical of them for in the playoffs, the health. Giannis has had 4 calf strains, right? This is like the 4th one he's on at this time. There's a pattern of those leading to Achilles injuries. I don't see how you talk yourself into trading for Giannis when he has missed his fair share of playoff games over the last several years due to repeated leg injuries. So how are you talking yourself into that when you can't even get yourself to buy into the Sixers because you don't trust Joel?
I think it's a fair point. You're at this weird crossroads of you have Embiid and George for 2 more years together. Do you try to maximize those 2 guys while you're trying to turn the keys over to Maxey and Edgecombe? I would imagine Edgecombe would have to be a part of that deal, although there are other ways you could make it work. I mean, you could swap George, those contracts 1 for 1 there, and just give them draft choices because they really want draft choices, right? You could throw them like a McCain to say, hey, you want a young guy? There you go. So I don't know if they're great partners, but you're in a weird spot where your 2 players, Edgecombe and Maxey, are on one end, and then the 2 guys at the end of the light. Do you try to help the 2 guys at the end of the light, or do you continue to let these 2 guys grow together? You're in a weird spot.
Well, there's no guarantee that DJ Edgecombe ever accomplishes what Giannis has accomplished as a superstar of a team. So that is something you have to consider. But you'll have to think about, like, look at the East. It's wide open. You don't know that you're ever going to have a better shot right now. And by the way, let's say you do swing the trade to get him. That inherently means that New York is not getting him where he would reportedly like to be. So, it does put you in prime position. But I think another conversation worth having here, and that it's a conversation Daryl has had before in his career, is it really worth leveraging or expensing your future for the right to go play Oklahoma City in the finals? I mean, Oklahoma City had its own injury history that Jalen Williams has been hurt most of the year. But I mean, everyone assumes the winner of the title is coming out of the West. So if you're just auditioning for the right to lose to one of those 2 teams, why would you give up your future for that?
Right. My podcast partner, Michael Kasky-Blomain, has an interesting trade. I don't know if you saw this one. Oubre and Drummond for Bobby Portis.
Bobby gave me one of those looks last night with the crazy eyes. I got a little bit nervous. I was like, what did I do? Bobby's a decent stretch big. I tend to think that maybe he's not the most Nick Nurse type player. But I mean, I can certainly see them talking themselves into, like, we need another big. We need someone who can stretch the floor with Tyrese.
Stretch
This
four,
fits
he rebounds, a little crazy maybe.
now I'm talking myself into it.
When he said it to me last night, he said, "What do you think?" Because we've been going through the trade machine on the pod, and I was like, "I can't find anything." I said, "That one's actually got my attention." That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't hate it. A couple that I've thought of that I like. Jalen Smith out of Chicago. Bryce Sensabaugh out of Utah.
Yep.
And then Grant Williams out of Charlotte.
I like Grant Williams. He's one of them pain in the asses that you always never had but always play against. That would be interesting. Sensabaugh's kind of cool. I haven't thought of him. I brought up Jalen Smith last week on the pod, or maybe 2 weeks ago, as an interesting guy there. We'll see. I don't know. Are they willing to kind of get creative here? How can they get creative? The problem with the Sixers, for the people out there listening, Embiid and Maxey make all the money, and George, and nobody else can really help you. Nobody else makes any money on the team, so you can't trade really anybody unless you get really, really creative here. So, all right, Austin Krell is at NBA Krell, and he covers the Sixers for Sports Illustrated. We'll talk to him throughout the rest of the Sixers season. Here, thanks, man.
Thank you, Mike.
That was fun, and of course, we'll have Austin on throughout the rest of the Sixers season. The trade deadline a week from tomorrow. We have the Sixers all season long right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, coming up, it's our Unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Also, football at 4 with Jeff Mosher. We'll get the latest on the Eagles offensive coordinator search. What's happening there? Why are other teams doing things in the Eagles not? Q Myers jumps in at 4:30. And then you guys, where's the text board today? Hit it up hard. Eagles, Phillies, Sixers. By the way, Flyers tonight against the Blue Jackets on 97.3 ESPN.
What's his winning percentage without Brady? I believe it's .451. That's lower than Jeff Fisher, who's .512. And I know, obviously, this is so extreme what I'm doing because Bill Belichick and Tom Brady achieved this together. But I'm just saying there are consequences to your actions. And clearly some of those writers want the cheating that Bill Belichick participated in that altered other players and organizations' legacies to be a part of the story, because that's what this is. The Hall of Fame tells the story of football. He's going to get in, but they want it to be a part of his legacy, that he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer because of actions that he participated in that were nefarious, that had consequences towards other people in a negative way.
Michelle Smallman, the unsportsmanlike moment of the day, she's not all that appalled by Bill Belichick not making it, and for reasons like the Baseball Hall of Fame. You did nefarious things or were alleged to have done nefarious things or got in trouble for doing nefarious things, and therefore you're not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So she's saying, look, Deflategate, this gate, that gate, and outside of the Brady years, which, by the way, I don't know that that's really fair. He wasn't all that good of a coach without Tom Brady, but he still won all those games with Brady. He was a part of it, so you got to have that in there. Look, do I think Bill Belichick should be a first ballot Hall of Fame coach? Sure, absolutely, not a question. But is she wrong by saying, hey, if I'm a voter and I thought you cheated, I'm not putting you in? Because that's what they do with the baseball guys, and no one seems to have a problem with it, right?
Just because one person doesn't mean everybody should do it right. The problem is this is a history museum, not a hall of morality. We got to stop having selective morality judgments on people. You're either a Hall of Famer or you're not, period.
Well, listen, the point goes back to the baseball. The baseball started this stuff where, hey, I'm going to judge whether or not I think you did steroids or not. And if I think you did it, I'm not voting for you. To have a Hall of Fame without Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and yada, 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 you've lost me. And now football's going down the same path. Sadly. Sad but true. Coming up, football at 4 is on the way. Jeff Mosher's in the house. By the way, the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. It's brought to you by White Horse RV Center in Williamstown and Galloway. Your RV adventure starts here at White Horse RV. Mosh, next. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Jeff Mosher's here today for Football at 4. A lot to discuss on today's Football at 4. I have come to terms with who I think the Eagles' next offensive coordinator will be. We'll talk about that and more. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast is here on the Sports Bass Live on 97.3 ESPN. Moshe, welcome back, man. Happy Wednesday to you. Birds Day 20, 30, 40, 50 without an offensive coordinator here. But I now think I know who it's going to be. Do you have a leader, a guess? Are you picking up tea leaves? Do you have any guess at this point?
I'd much rather just hear who you think is going to be the OC.
Okay. It's going to be Sean Mannion. He will be the next offensive coordinator.
Boy, that's low-hanging fruit just because he's coming in for a second interview?
Well, and he's coming in for a second interview. The Eagles pride themselves on finding the guy that wasn't on anybody's radar. Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. And this is the guy that they will say is the next thing. He's, there's people saying he's going to be a head coach. They love him. He's going to be the next head coach in Green Bay, yada, yada, yada. I believe the Eagles are trying to find a way to spin this to say we're going to hire a guy who hasn't been a play caller before, yada, yada. This is our guy. Because there isn't another candidate out there that if they announce today that anybody's going to be excited about. So they're going to say, we can't excite anybody. We'll just take the guy that not that they're trying to do that anyway, but we'll just take in that case, we got to spin any guy that we're going to hire. If you hired Matt Nagy, a guy who has a winning record as a head coach, people aren't going to be all that excited. So they're going to have to spin any of these guys. So they might as well just pick the guy they like the best.
Well, I think in general you should pick the guy that you like the best after you cast a wide net.
I say that as if they're going to do it based on what we and the fans think. That's not what I'm implying. My point is more they have nothing if this is the guy, and I think this will be the guy.
Well, I get what you're saying, and they certainly have a track record of not only kicking tires on all sorts of candidates for coaching jobs, but of getting a guy that nobody's heard. I mean, nobody heard of Nick Sirianni, right?
Right.
So they have that.
I mean, not a lot of people heard of Doug Peterson either. The only reason that Doug was known in this market is because he played here and was with Andy. But I think if you were if you went to Tennessee or Cincinnati or anywhere and said, hey, Doug Peterson, he wasn't on anybody's radar.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, they do have that track record, and they have had success with finding the guy that not everybody wanted. And, if I had a formula that worked out really well for me in the past, I'd probably stick with it as well. But, then you'll have some contradictory formulas, right? I mean, that would mean for the third time in 5 offensive play callers, you're hiring a guy with no experience doing so, and even less amount of NFL coaching experience doing so, and bringing him into your cocoon here and expecting him to succeed because you really like what he says philosophically. It's one thing to, explain what you like to do, what you are, what your philosophies are. And it's another thing then to take the personnel given to you and to be able to do it. So we'll see. I mean, this guy is only this guy is very shortly removed from actually playing
2 years.
In the NFL. Yeah.
And I remember him being a lousy quarterback in the NFL, which is exactly what I want when I'm looking for my next guy. I want a guy who stunk on the field. I'm kidding a little bit, but yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, these are the guys who make it.
The backup quarterbacks are always the great coaches, right? The Sean Paytons of the world, and you can go through and find a bunch of them.
Right, and he is a guy that has been. He's not even a play caller. He's not even an offensive coordinator, but he's one of those guys that you're just kind of like Josh McCown a couple of years ago. This guy right here, he's probably the guy that might end up, being something here. And as you said, and I echo is the Eagles, when they have hired from outside, not appointing from within, they have won. They got Andy Reid. He was a nobody. He was a quarterback coach. Nobody ever heard of the guy. They got Doug Peterson. They got Nick Sirianni. So whenever they interview, whatever, as you said, whatever their method is, their due diligence, you really can't question them on it. It's when they have promoted from within that they have got themselves into trouble.
Yeah, and I don't really know that there's a big difference on that. Some of that is probably
Well, I will say the big difference, and see if you agree or disagree, Moshe, is you have guys and you had success and you don't want to rock the boat. It's, hey, we went to the Super Bowl with Shane. Let's just kind of streamline it to Brian. Hey, we won the Super Bowl with Kellen. Let's kind of streamline that to a voice that was here so we don't have a new guy coming in and saying, let's do this and do that and do this and do that. No, we want to do what we've been doing, and maybe that's backfired on them.
Yeah, and maybe, but you can't, that's not a bad line of thinking either. The whole point of bringing people into your program and promoting them and into your culture, and you hear Howie Roseman talk about this with his GM or his execs who become GMs, that they consider that a merit badge. They came in here, they learned, they did their thing, they helped out the franchise in their role, and then moved on to do well. I mean, theoretically, you want that. So there's nothing really wrong with that line of thinking. It's just that when it doesn't work out, it looks like your line of thinking was incorrect, but it doesn't mean that just because you bring in somebody from the outside that's going to be correct. Yes, it worked for Kellen Moore. Sure, that's one. Well, I guess we'll have to go see. I mean, we can't really count Shane Steichen because that was a whole new staff in general coming in.
Regime.
So you call that outside and inside. So, I don't know that there's one way to look at it here, Mike. You just want to get the best guy. And obviously, if you go with a guy like Sean Mannion, then you probably have the ability to, a guy like Sean Mannion wants the opportunity. So some guys may be concerned about this, that, and the other, whether it's, the offensive, the run game still in place from the offensive line coach, or whether or not A.J. Brown's going to be here, or getting along with Jalen Hurts, like that might be a turnoff for guys who are higher profile, but not for someone who's starving to have the job.
Well, you wrote about this at Philly Voice. Are they a victim of their own success here? Mm-hmm. It's interesting because they've won 11 games. They won the division back-to-back, and this year is viewed as kind of a fail. So the success of, if you are not a Super Bowl contender, you're almost viewed in this market now as you failed. Are you suggesting that these coaches don't want to be a part of that?
Well, I've seen a lot of people or whatever. I try not to pay attention to what social media says, but it's been out there that, this is the Eagles' fault, that they're not
they're too good
prime destination. No, not for that. But yes, they've been good. But also, look, they fire guys after 11-win seasons, and one guy gets his house egged, and all different reasons. And Nick Sirianni, he's not someone people who want to go work with because you might have to run his offense. And I say anybody can say any of those things, and they're true. But would you trade that? Would you trade 5 straight trips to the playoffs, 2 Super Bowl trips, and a Super Bowl ring for making your offensive coordinator job look more appealing? No. No, only A.J. Brown would do that, apparently. Okay, so most rational people wouldn't. So that's where the Eagles become a victim of their own success, is that they have done it this way and succeeded, but that's not the way that maybe the most attractive way that someone like Mike McDaniel or Brian Dable would want to conduct their way of doing things. And so the Eagles have to confront, do they change radically how they do things? Do they open up their offensive coordinator position to someone who's willing to come in and tear it down and gut it out and make changes and all that when they don't exactly know what that would lead to? Or do they just try to get the best version of what they've already had? And I don't know what the right answer is, Mike. Do
you think they have to, last year, one of the issues was, Patullo struggles and people are calling for him to be fired in season. They didn't have anybody to go to. There was nobody on the staff that really had any sort of seniority or a past of handling that position. But when they're interviewing this guy, is this a guy that they're looking at as, hey, you're a one and done, or you might be the guy that replaces Nick if things don't go well? A guy who has head coaching gravitas.
No, I doubt that. If things don't go well, then the whole house gets cleaned. That's the organizational history of it. That wouldn't happen. Now, I would tell you that I think that if they hire a Sean Mannion or a Declan Doyle. I know he's taking his name out. I'm just giving you guys, right? It would be really smart for them to bring in a senior offensive advisor as well. But that's rule of thumb for me. This organization has not necessarily succeeded in that regard, because 2 years ago they did that with Sean Desai, and they bring in Matt Patricia, and that was an absolute mess. So sometimes this organization has a tough time getting out of its own way because it wants too many things. It wants, this goes back to Doug Peterson, and let's have 4 different offensive minds in that last year when it blew up, right? I mean, the Eagles are a great organization. Trust me, I'm not trying to downplay it, but there are some reasons why they hit these peaks and valleys, and maybe like teams like, I think I brought up in the article, like the Patriots under Brady and the Chiefs under Andy up until this year really haven't had those valleys, because sometimes the Eagles have a tough time getting out of their own way.
If I was to ask Jeff Mosher, what are the things that might be a distraction to this position, this job here? Because I was laughing this morning. I said, I could arbitrarily throw out the number 6 and come up with 6 reasons why someone wouldn't want this job. Do you have reasons in your mind, some of the key reasons why someone wouldn't look at this job as the Philadelphia Eagles? Super Bowl, MVP, Super Bowl, great offensive weapons. They put a lot of money. They always draft. They draft well. They're always going to put the product on the field.
Mm-hmm.
What would some of the reasons in your mind be that people are questioning this position as we almost hit February?
Yeah, we've kind of talked about a bunch of them, and this isn't just my opinion. I've run this up through people around the league to see if they agree or what insight they can provide. First of all, the Eagles have done it. We just talked about this. They've done it a certain way for 5 years, okay? So you're looking at, do I have to do it their way? Okay, does that mean all the coaches who are still here have to be here? Do I have to run the ball the way they've run the ball? Do I have to pass the ball? If not, if I'm allowed to have full autonomy, well, what does that mean? Because and then this leads to number 2. Is the offensive line going to be healthy? Is A.J. Brown going to come back? There's a lot of question marks. If we win 11 games, but that's not good enough and lose in the first round, are you firing Nick Sirianni? Because then that means I don't have a job either. But if I go to Tennessee, I know that if I win like 8 games, right, then I'm doing pretty well. I'm going to be a hero if I win anywhere between 6 and 8 games. It's an improvement. So those are 3 factors right there that would make you look at the job and give you a little pause. And that doesn't mean the job's bad. It just means there's question marks. People who just got fired, especially a Mike McDaniel, a Brian Daboll, the last thing these guys ever want to do is go take a job where there's I don't want to call it a strong likelihood, but there's a question about, will they get fired again the next year? And obviously, if the Eagles don't do well next year, Nick Sirianni is going to definitely be on the hot seat and potentially be fired. We know the history of this organization here. So I'm sure that, and by the way, these candidates all do research too. They ask around for people who've worked there, people who don't work there, or people who know the organization, and they get those kind of information as well. So, those 3 right there, 3 or 4 that I just mentioned, are factors. We really don't know what this offense is going to look like next year, Mike.
No, we don't. And, we could certainly I said if it's good and bad, right? Where the Super Bowl's coming up this week, you're looking at what's going on. The Eagles still don't have a coordinator, so that's something that you're discussing, because if not, you're really breaking down this roster ad nauseum and saying, man, where do you start to look? Because pick 23, to me, can go in a lot of different ways. And I know we're way off that draft, but you need a tight end. You don't have one on the roster other than Latu. So you need a tight end. Is that a pick at 23? You need to rebuild the offensive line. Is that something you consider at that spot? You need, probably, if you don't bring Jalen Phillips back, you need an edge rusher again.
Mm-hmm.
A corner opposite of Quinion. You need probably to look at that spot. You probably don't draft a safety, but if Reed Blankenship leaves, you probably got to consider that somewhere in this draft class. So you're pretty unsettled there, because if Makuba comes back and he's your senior guy at that position, this roster definitely has a lot of questions in it for a team that won the division for the 2nd year in a row and is a year away from a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and let's be fair. Like, Howie has a great track record of making things work and making it good. So there's always that. I'm not saying they're going to be terrible, but I think if you're an offensive coordinator specifically, and the team has been built around its offensive line, and you just saw that, 2 guys were really banged up, 3, And one of them, you don't know, is he retiring? Is he coming back to play? How's his foot? He couldn't get back on the field. Like, you know, you have to make these decisions in a short amount of time too, most of the time, because you got other people calling you with more offers and things like that. So, and you know, like there's also the fishbowl of Philadelphia. That's not for everybody.
All right, Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4. And, of course, the offseason, as we just said, you got the draft, free agency. They got their own free agent questions, too, with Reed Blankenship being one, Jalen Phillips being another, Nakobe Dean being probably high on that list as somebody that you're going to have to figure out. I would imagine you let him walk because you have Campbell there. So you have those three key names because last year – you had these key decisions, and you let most of those guys walk out the door. You rebuilt the defense pretty quickly, but can you take the hits of losing Blankenship, losing Phillips, losing Dean? There's three more starters. Now, you have one guy in-house with Campbell that you think that you have, but there's a lot that Howie Roseman's going to have to do this offseason, which I think kind of hit you pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It certainly did, and, you know, my colleague at Philly Voice, Nick Tricone, wrote a really good column today about, you know, winning it in 2017 and tough decisions and then trying to replace holes, and it just didn't go well, and they progressively got worse. You know, obviously the Eagles have been able to withstand that this second time around, you know, after going to the Super Bowl and winning it and keeping the roster. I mean, Howie has drafted so much better last few years than he did in 2017 and beyond. But there are questions, and the you can't afford that much slippage, you know, and it's hard to be perfect every season or off season. So
that's a big thing.
Every once in a while, you got to have a 53 that's not miles and miles ahead of everybody else's, and actually win on your own coaching and personnel acumen.
And that's a big thing you just said. They've hit on so many of these guys. At what point does that magic pixie dust finally, you know, where you've hit on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and, you know, Nolan Smith
Cooper.
Cooper and Quinyon. I mean, you've hit on every single one of these guys. When was the last time they had a first or second round, or, you know, like a guy that they drafted high that, what's that?
Rager, probably that long ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And that whole draft was, other than Hurts, was abysmal. It was Davion Taylor in the third round and Kevon Wallace in the fourth round and Jack Driscoll in the fourth round and John Hightower in the fifth, I believe, and Quez Watkins in the sixth. Well, I'm doing this completely, by the way, off my head. I think I'm doing pretty good here. But that was a horrific draft, except for the fact that they got a starting quarterback / Super Bowl MVP out of it. But ever since then, they've been pretty decent on day 1 and 2. Day 3, not so great.
All right, Jeff Mosher and the Inside the Birds podcast, which, of course, we have all offseason long rebuilding these Eagles. We'll be at the Super Bowl next week. You won't be there. Adam is going to be at Radio Row, and Adam will be a part of our show throughout the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You'll be hearing him on Football at 4 and so, a little bit more throughout the show. And we're going to be hopefully talking to some of these Eagle players about this season. We do have Donovan McNabb coming on next week. That is one guy that we will talk about the quarterback position there, and hopefully a couple of others, you know, to find out what they think about what happened this season and why some of the things didn't go as planned, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. You know what's interesting too, Moshe? One of the guests that we're working on is one of the defensive backs from the Rams, Quentin Lake.
Oh, great player.
And I want to talk to Quentin Lake because in that game against the Eagles, he had his best day of the season. It's I think he had 4 pass defenses in that game. It was the most he had in a game all season long. Yeah. And I was wondering about why'd you have so many pass breakups in that game? Was their offense that vanilla? So I want to get some insight from a Rams corner about this Eagles pass offense. So he's going to be joining us on the show.
I believe they blitzed heavily in the first half and then completely stopped in the second half, and that's when the Eagles went in the tank. So probably some good questions there on whether that was intentional. Did they think showing him one thing and then showing him another thing was the plan, or would that? You know, I would love to know all that. Yeah.
Well, we're working on that one as well. So looking forward to next week. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, phillyvoice.com. Thanks, man.
See you guys.
All right, there's Jeff, and, of course, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live videos streaming on the X platform and on YouTube. At Mike Gill Show, yes, we are on YouTube. You can watch the show live each and every day, and make sure you do. Go to the YouTube channel, go to youtube.com, and in the search bar, put in 97.3 ESPN, and you can watch the show live right there on the search bar each and every day. If you are driving around in the car, You can put it on your YouTube app on your phone and then Bluetooth that thing. You can listen on the radio, but if you want to see the show, see the guests like Jeff Mosher or Q Myers, who's coming up in about 9 minutes from now. If you are someone who drives in the car, listens on the radio, and you want to keep watching the show when you get home from your commute, you go to your big old smart TV. You go to the YouTube app on your TV and just search 973 ESPN, and you can watch us right there in the living room. If you're going to have dinner or maybe out for a quick drink for happy hour, just say to the bartender, hey, you got the YouTube app in here? Can you put the Sports Bash on? You can watch the Sports Bash on YouTube, 973 ESPN. Search right there. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. When we come back, Q Myers, what is his take on Bill Belichick not getting in? I want to hear his reaction to this. When Bill Belichick, if you're not paying attention, they had the Hall of Fame vote last night. He did not get in on the first ballot. So Bill Belichick essentially is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Think about that. Bill Belichick. We'll get Q Myers' reaction to that and more. Is Giannis Antetokounmpo going to get traded? Stick around. We got you. The Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, take it until 6. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. He's the host of Game Night right here on 97.3 ESPN. Q Myers is in the house. Your boy Q, you hear him right here, 10 o'clock on 97.3 ESPN. And I'm sure he'll be pontificating about what happened with Bill Belichick. That has been a big topic of conversation throughout the day. He did not get voted in. Many people thought it was a fait accompli that this guy's a Hall of Famer. You know, he won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, 2 more as an assistant. He does not get in. Now, Q Myers, I want to get your reaction to this because, quite frankly, I don't care.
Well, you know, it's funny. I get it. He's going to get in next year. There's no doubt about it. But, I mean, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, who is? Right? I mean, that's the thing about it to me. And it felt very Cooperstown-like for me.
Yes.
Right? When I saw that and I read that, the report and the story on ESPN.com, I thought it was so Cooperstown-like. And I just didn't like that feel. It's almost like, hey, we're going to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And we don't like the way that this guy went about, winning some of his titles. And we don't like the stain on his name behind the deflate gate, spy gate, whatever gate you want to call it. And so we're going to make him wait a year. What are we doing? And the other thing about it, Mike, and again, it's not something to lose too much sleep over, but it does push everybody back. It pushes everyone back, in the pecking order. Guys that could have been up this year are going to have to obviously wait. Guys that could have been up next year are going to have to be pushed back a year. You know what I mean? So it starts the logjam that we know is the Pro Football Hall of Fame and all the logjam that they've had before. So there's a few trickle down effects. Nothing that's going to be earth shattering though.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's exactly where I went. Q is. This has got into baseball world where now you're judging on did they do steroids, did they not do steroids? Right. Were they a bad guy? Were they a good guy? Once you get down that road and you're not just looking at the accomplishments on the field, you've lost me. And it's a shame. These guys play their whole careers to try to become immortalized, and now you've done this to it.
Right.
It's a shame, but now you've completely lost me on these accomplishments for pretty much every sport. They've all become the halls of very good based on whether or not I may have liked you or not.
Right, and that's the thing. And we're at many press conferences. We talk to players in the locker rooms. We talk to coaches. We have these interactions with them. And some I can go and say, man, that was a great player to talk to. That's a fantastic coach to interact with. And others, you're like, not so much. But, I mean, look, your resume is your resume. Right. And that's what it's supposed to be about. And I talk to the great John McClain each and every week, and he's been a Hall of Fame voter. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's been covering the NFL for very long, 50 years now. I talk to him all the time about this. And he says, look, Q, the thing about it is it's never supposed to be about the interactions with the media or how somebody was treated. It's all supposed to be about the actions on the field, how the game was played. Did you do it at the highest level? And if those are the criteria when it comes to Bill Belichick and his 8 Super Bowl titles that he has, yeah, he did it at the highest level.
Yeah, and Tom Brady did slam the voters for it as well, as obviously Brady and Belichick, when they split, Brady had success. Belichick did not.
Does he get affected when it's his time? Does he get
I don't think so. I don't think so. Why? Brady's a likable guy. I mean, Brady's in the media now, and he's a likable guy. Where Belichick, by the way, did a lot of media and when he took the year off, but he's had this bizarre twist and turn after his Patriot career with the girlfriend and then North Carolina, and it feels that he's the one that's getting the scar of the Deflategate and everything. And Brady, I would imagine, I don't think Brady's going to feel the effects of this.
I don't think he will either. It's just one of those, some of that food for thought that we had on game night last night as we were trying to break it down, and we talked to Seth Wickersham on the show as well. And it's just, that was kind of my part. Like, okay, so who else is affected by this? Remember, Robert Kraft is part of this as well. And, hearing reports from Bill Polian saying, I don't remember if I voted for Bill Belichick. I didn't urge voters not to vote for him. I don't remember if I didn't vote for Bill Belichick, but I know I voted for Robert Kraft. Like, wait, what? What are we talking about?
You don't remember.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on, dude. Are you serious? Like, what are we doing? So,
all right. That to me, I did not hear that he said he didn't remember. I know people were kind of saying that he was leading the charge to push people, and then I thought he came out and said that he did vote for him, but I wasn't following it because, quite frankly, like I said, I lost interest because once it got to the point that he didn't make it, I said, okay, you guys are a sham now, and I'm out. I'm out on this whole thing. So I'm sure you guys will be discussing more about that. Game night, 10 o'clock. Q Myers right here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to get your take on the Giannis stuff.
Oh,
because this thing is getting juicy now.
Yep.
He didn't want to be traded. Now he decides he does want to be traded. He's hurt. Who has the goods to get him? I mean, we're going to be on Radio Row. The trade deadline's on Thursday. Yep. Is the basketball trade world going to infiltrate the Super Bowl?
Again. It did last year. Remember, it did last year. We were on Bourbon Street last year in New Orleans, and all of a sudden the notification came that Luka Doncic was traded to the Lakers. And I had to look at the report and look at it again and look at my drink and then look at the report again. I was like, okay.
I was on Bourbon Street, so I don't remember that trade happening, actually. Sorry.
Exactly. And so that was my thing. Like, wait, is this real? And there's a good chance that that's going to happen again this time when we're on Radio Row in San Francisco this time. And that's just – It's so bizarre. And my biggest thing with the Giannis, it's not like this should be a big surprise. It's just, why did it take so long? Why didn't you go ahead and handle this business in the offseason when we all anticipated? We spent a whole summer, Mike, talking about, Giannis, is he or is he not going to get traded? Then they did what they had to do. They moved on from Dame Lillard, right? They brought in the guy from the Pacers. What's his name? Now I forget his name, and that's not good radio. But
Miles Turner.
Yeah, it's Miles Turner. And it's like, oh, that's going to keep him. And I remember on the radio, I was like, is it? Like, that's going to keep him. That's going to be the deciding factor.
Well, you know what's not keeping him is him. He's getting hurt.
Right.
They're 3-12 without him. Now they're only 15-15 with him. But what is their record if he's in those 15 games that they're 3-12 without him? He's holding them up as well.
Right, and right now he's damaged goods. So if I'm a team interested in trading for him, and I should be, every team should be interested in trading for him. I'm going to try to.
Would you trade VJ Edgecombe now if you're the Sixers?
No, not at all. No way. Especially not that guy.
Our mutual friend, Paulie, has texted me all the time. Like, I told you he was a dog. And I was like, you were right, man. I didn't question you.
Yes.
But, I mean, Edgecombe, people are here saying, oh, there's a contingent that's saying, hey, if you can go get Giannis, you trade Edgecombe and get him. Now, the last time I fell into the trap, I would have traded Maxey for Lillard a couple of years ago because I said, there ain't no way Tyrese Maxey can score 30 points a game. Well, he shut my ass up. He scored 30 a night. And therefore, I'm going to let Edgecombe and Maxey grow together. But you got this Embiid George thing that's still happening here.
I know.
And do you try to say Embiid has another MVP season in him right now? He's not going to win it, but he's playing at that level. Let's get him Giannis. I think the Sixers have to be honest with themselves and say, let Edgecombe and Maxey be the future. You don't get involved on the Giannis. You're on board with that?
I'm on board with that 100%. I think that's a really good backcourt right there. I think you could do some really good things with that backcourt. I can't trust Embiid to be healthy all the time. I do like what he's doing right now as a third or fourth option, like what PG did the other night. Again, third or fourth option, I'm good with that. If you can find a way to get, Giannis in the mix, great, but I'm not giving up. The two non-negotiables. Maxey and Edgecombe aren't going anywhere. So anybody else? Sure. Right? We could talk about that. We can negotiate. But those two guys ain't going nowhere.
Okay, so where we are in the NBA right now, by the way, the trade deadline's coming up. All-Star Weekend is coming. Yep. These teams got to bleep or get off the pot.
Yep.
If you're at where you are now, do you say this is Oklahoma City's world and we're all just living in it, or do you make a move to try to say, nah, they're not untouchable? How do you play it?
I think that San Antonio has proved that OKC is not untouchable, but they're really stinking good. And I don't know what's going to happen with San Antonio. I see that there's a few guys that they're looking at to possibly move out of there and bring some other, weapons in there. But if you have a healthy Wemby with that young staff right there that basically is not scared of anybody, I could see them giving OKC a run for their money. But OKC is still the better team, the best team in the league. There's no doubt about it. But when everyone thought that they were going to go win 74, 75 games this season, then all of a sudden they hit that lull. It's like, okay, yeah, see, that's how hard it is to win and win consistently like that at such a high level and blow everybody out like they were doing. So really, really good team. They have to survive health. That's going to be a situation. And, we'll see who gets hot at the right time. But San Antonio showed you that there is a recipe on how to beat OKC.
Yep. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening at the trade deadline with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Are you buying the Pistons?
I like the Pistons a lot. I'm interested to see if they can get it done with the team that they have. I like what they did last year and felt like they were so young they didn't know what they didn't know. And now, and Cade Cunningham's been a dog, man, ever since Oklahoma State when he did the 1 year there where he really had no business even going there, but he did. He fulfilled his commitment to them. I think that he's an absolute dog. I love what Cade Cunningham is bringing to the table. Do they need an extra piece? Maybe there's someone that's looking at Giannis. Maybe they, have a couple pieces that they can move around. But I think that they're going to be a fun team to watch out east, man. And I'm definitely paying attention to just what it looks like in the postseason.
Q Myers is with us. Game night tonight at 10. Q, why do you think the Eagles can't find a coordinator?
Man, I'm telling you, brother, we talk about this every week. I am blown away. I really am, and then a guy like Todd Monken ends up in Cleveland as the head coach. And I'm just like, what in the world's going on? This is a team that's, has a chance to win a championship every year. You know what I mean? Like, what is really going on? I mean, the Eagles are a really good team, and they can't buy an offensive coordinator. At some point, they're going to have you do the first and the third quarter, and I'm going to run the second and the fourth quarter. Like, what's going on? To me, it's blowing my mind that they can't find an offensive coordinator. Like, nobody wants that job. Nobody, like Brian Daboll, thought that Tennessee was a better location than Philadelphia. Mike McDaniel, we talked about him in the cold, so I get that. But Daboll, I couldn't believe it, man. It just really blew my mind.
Yeah, I do agree with the thing that Daboll is saying. Look, I was with the Giants. I was in Buffalo. Maybe I just needed a little bit of, like, out of the pressure cooker here. Let me go down to Nashville, get a little honky-tonk for a little while here. That's a head-scratcher to me, that if you're Brian Daboll and you've been in the pressure cookers, that you don't want to have that, being in Philadelphia. But I'll tell you this. It appears that the Eagles might have to go down the road of hiring a guy who's never been a play caller before. And you wonder how that's going to go over, where you just went down that road and had to say, basically, you're gone because – you weren't up for the challenge. How do you sell that of, hey, we're going to bring in, some of the names they're interviewing, Frank Smith, Sean Mannion, Jared Johnson. None of these guys have called plays before. This is the Philadelphia Eagles we're talking about here.
Exactly. And how do you sell that to the locker room, right? If you're the guys in the locker room and you know how the experience went this year, you say, really? That's the solution? That's what we're going to bring in, and it's going to be better next year. I don't feel very good about that scenario. I feel like you have to bring in someone that's proven. Then you need to bring in a Kellen Moore. You need to bring in a Shane Steichen. You need someone that has got some skins on the wall when it comes to play calling and what they can bring to the table. I don't see that in any of those names that you just rattled off. If I'm in that locker room, I'm not feeling good. And if I'm an Eagle fan, I sure as hell am not feeling very good about that scenario.
Yeah, we got a couple head coaching openings still as well. Raiders still, right? Raiders don't have a head coach.
Nope, not yet, brother. It's only two left. It's the Cardinals and the Raiders.
So, as somebody who's still waiting for a head coach, are you like us waiting for a offensive coordinator? Like, well, what's going on? Or are you kind of like, okay, I get it. Be patient. Don't rush this thing.
I think it's either Davis Webb of the Broncos or Clint Kubiak of the Seahawks. Those are just my two guys that I think that the Raiders are going to end up with, one of the two. I'm actually leaning towards Clint Kubiak. I feel like if they wanted Davis Webb, they could have hired him already after the Broncos lost in the championship game. So I just think that it's Clint Kubiak. I feel like Tom Brady, if you were listening to the broadcast, you heard him gushing over Clint Kubiak, just like he was gushing over Ben Johnson last year. I think that they've probably already had a conversation. They probably already have a verbal agreement, which doesn't mean anything until you sign the paperwork. But I feel like there's already something set in place. Clint Kubiak's supposed to be interviewing with them later on this week. So I think that that's going to be the direction they go.
All right, there's Q Myers. You can listen to him in full tonight at 10 right here on 97.3 ESPN. This time next week, we'll be in San Francisco, and we'll see if we bump into each other, see if we can get you live on the set while we're out there. I've never been to San Fran before.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. Now, after hours, you're good. You cover the Eagles, man. You're good. But after hours, keep your head on a swivel. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, I haven't been out there. I'm going to take some I'll have to get some insight and analysis from the people who've been there. But we'll talk to Q next week live in the flesh out in San Francisco. And make sure you listen to him tonight at 10 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Good to see you, man.
I appreciate you, brother. See you next week.
All right, he will be live at Radio Row. They'll be doing game night. And, of course, his local show is Raider Nation Radio in Vegas. Is his daily show on 920 Vegas Radio in Las Vegas. And, of course, you hear him on the national network right here on 97.3 ESPN. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, we're going to check in on the poll question again, which will go back to the conversation we were having with Q Myers about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Saturday, Charles Barkley said if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. Do you look at the Sixers as true contenders to get out of the East? We'll update the poll question at Mike Gill Show. You can vote or text 609-403 0973. Let us know why or why not. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Your home for the Flyers tonight, taking on the Blue Jackets. All right, 448 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Poll question. We did have a bunch of votes during the break there, so we'll update the poll question in just a second. Sports Bash is live each and every day, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video on the X platform, at Mike Gill Show on YouTube. Search 973 ESPN. Watch the show live. Hit the subscribe button. We appreciate everybody who's starting to find us on YouTube. We're starting to get a lot bigger viewership each and every day. We do appreciate everybody out there that's been a part of the show that way. Charles Barkley said on Saturday, Josh, that if the Sixers have a healthy Embiid, that the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. Jeez. It's pretty high praise, right?
I don't really think it's that crazy of a statement, because I think when people don't maybe, and again, I know I'm speaking in some ways to people who are listening to us who maybe don't watch the entire NBA, but the Pistons are a very good basketball team.
They're very good. And
but they're also very flawed in one way.
They don't shoot very well.
Exactly.
They're
not a team that's going to get back into the game by shooting their way back in. So if you're a team that gets a lead on them and you bludgeon them to death like the Sixers could, Sixers could run them out of the building in certain games. But again, it comes back to if they're healthy.
Well, if Joel Embiid is healthy, the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. That's what Charles Barkley said on Saturday, which makes me ask, do you look at the Sixers as a true contender to get out of the East? 54% right now say yes. 56% say no. It's pretty close. I don't want to say it's 50-50. It's slightly more, though, that people are actually saying yes, that they think that the Sixers are a true contender to get out of the East. Which, listen, is that an accomplishment? It's a much bigger accomplishment that they've had in, I don't know, the last 25 years, save for one season. So you've got to really look at this team and say at the trade deadline, can they do something? Can they fix this team, or can they? I don't think fix isn't the right word. The health is the big thing. He said it. Charles Barkley said it. He said, if Embiid is healthy, that the Pistons can't beat them. So, and I don't know if I agree with him. I thought Austin Krell brought up a good point. One area where this team can be questioned is their internal toughness. Do they have the toughness to get the stop, to get the rebound? In that big moment of the game where the game is close, the game is tied, and it's late, and there's a long rebound, who's going to get it? Or there's that tough rebound, who's going to get it? Or there's that loose ball, who's going to get it? That's where I think the Sixers lack.
My contrarian question then would be, in that case, how many teams, though, fit the category of the team that would be able to do that to you?
That's the thing.
Like, there's not a ton of teams that fit what you just described.
Right. There's not a lot of teams that you're overly concerned that are just going to out-talent you.
Or out-rebound you.
So the big thing is, where talent is pretty equal, the intangibles will now come into play.
Right.
So it's who gets the loose balls, who gets the big rebound.
Like, for example, do you think the Cavs fit that category?
Cavs are they're a tough matchup for the Sixers. Yes, when they're at full strength, they're interesting because they are a team that provides, they have a little bit more size.
Yep.
They are, as we saw when they played here, back-to-back nights, they do have a little grittiness to them.
All right. So
but I don't look at the Cavs as
well, I'm
everybody's a title contender in the East, because the East is wide open. That I think there's 6 teams in the East that can get out of the East.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to ask is, who are the teams that are the threat to be the problem that we are describing?
Nobody. That's what I'm saying. Nobody. That's why the Sixers would – the answer to the question is yes, because there is no true, far and away more talented team. Like in the past, it's like, okay, this team's – Boston's really good. They got Brown and Tatum and, really it's been it. I mean, it's been the Celtics for the last couple of years that you've really said – even the year the Sixers lost to the Knicks that in the first round a couple of years ago, it's really because the Knicks had an outer body experience and shot the lights out with Josh Hart and who was the other guy that was shitting?
The guy from WVU, McBride.
McBride and guys just hitting threes that were way above their season averages. And it felt like every time you've played Boston in the playoffs, like Daniel Tice all of a sudden starts making threes out of nowhere. So, hey, listen.
Peyton Pritchard.
Big part is have fun the rest of the way. Embiid has certainly given you more than I think you anticipated this year. So if you're the guy who told me at the beginning of the year he should retire, you sound like a complete fool. So now you'll move the goalpost and probably say, well, he's not this, he's not that. No, you said he should retire. Okay, maybe he's not a great rebounder, maybe he's not this. You said he should retire, some people out there. There are people that really think like, oh, maybe he could. Like, remember that people were asking the question, are they better off without him? Or we're asking, like, is there a way he can retire so he can get the money? Like, what kind of clowns are out there actually giving that opinion? Charles Barkley disagrees with you. Poll question up for about another hour. If Embiid is healthy, he says the Pistons can't beat the Sixers. Do you look at the Sixers as true contenders to get out of the East? Right now, 54% say yes. Keep voting at Mike Gill Show. 5 o'clock hour, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. Having a little fun on a Wednesday. So, a lot happening. Browns have a new coach, by the way, Todd Monken. So, he's off the coordinator list. He wasn't coming here anyway. He was going to go to the Giants. Now, the Giants need a coordinator, so now you're competing with them. I think if you are worried about the Eagles coordinator thing, they got bigger fish to fry. They're going to get this right. Why? They always do. I'm going to tell you now who I think the coordinator is going to be. Sean Mannion's going to get the job. That's my take. It hit me today. Sean Mannion's going to get the job. They're trying to figure out a way to spin it as a guy with no play calling experience. But the Eagles pride themselves on finding a guy that wasn't on anyone's radar. C, Reed, Andy. Peterson, Doug. Sirianni, Nick. The Eagles have gone down this route so many times before where they find the guy that nobody was talking about. They find the guy that was on nobody's radar. He comes here, and then he turns into, hey, look, I know there's a lot of guys out there that don't like Nick Sirianni. I got a guy who messaged me this morning, right? I wake up this morning, I look at the mentions on the old Twitter machine, and unsolicited, you get the message of this one here, my guy Marquise, who always tweets at me. He hates Sirianni. So anytime I have no idea where this even came from. He says, why don't you or the other two major radio stations believe that Sirianni's job is actually in jeopardy? And this is and should be his last year upcoming. All right, let's address this for Marquise, who I love. I love Marquise. He's always trying to come up with like the way to just say, you're wrong. Let me tell you why that people don't believe that Sirianni's job is in jeopardy. I don't know if you noticed the last 5 years, Marquise, or anybody else out there who's wondering why Sirianni's job is not in jeopardy. He won the Super Bowl. He got to the Super Bowl. He's coached 5 years. He's made the playoffs all 5 years. In the history of the game, okay, there are 3 coaches who have a better record than Nick Sirianni. Generally, teams are not itching to get rid of that guy. You might not like him. I get it. He's not your cup of tea. And I am in no way, shape, or form telling you how to think. You ask me a question, I'm giving you an answer. Why is nobody saying that he's not on the hot seat? Generally, people with that kind of resume, it's kind of hard to say, you know what, let's fire that guy. I get it. He's not the, this is like the going back to the arguments about Embiid, Hurts over the year. Not Hurts, McNabb. People hated McNabb. People loved McNabb. There was McNabb guys and guys hated McNabb. And I always used to say about McNabb, he's not the great that you wanted him to be, right? He was a different kind of great, but he's not the great that you envision from your quarterback. And there's Sirianni. He's not the guy that you envisioned being the coach that led you to heights that you've never really hit before. Now, I get it. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. But Nick Sirianni, to the person who messaged me this morning, is not on a hot seat when you have the third highest winning percentage. I got to find out what the actual number is. I don't want to misquote his actual accolade. And then people say, he's not number 3, he's whatever. I mean, even if he's top 10 all time, right? Even if he's top 10 of all time. Here we go. Nick Sirianni has the third most wins by a head coach in their first 5 seasons with the franchise in NFL history. He is the 4th head coach in the Super Bowl era to register playoff appearances in each of his first 5 years. The other guys are Bill Cowher, John Harbaugh, and Chuck Knox. That's it, and Nick Sirianni. By the way, the 3 coaches, third most wins in their first 5 years, George Seifert and Tony Dungy. He is also one of 3 head coaches in NFL history to have 4 11-win seasons in their first 5 years. The other guys are Tony Dungy and Andy Reid. So to ask the question that you asked really doesn't deserve an answer. But because you asked it so obtusely, I will give you the answer. Like, sometimes people ask questions and you have to do a double take. Like, are we serious with this question? Like, am I actually having to answer this question? Like, you don't know the answer yourself? Like, you really need me to explain it to you why Nick Sirianni may not be on the hot seat? Listen, I know it. Sirianni's not everybody's bag. He's not everybody's cup of tea. But to ask a question of why he's not on the hot seat, it's a simple Google search. What is Nick Sirianni's accolades? And you will have a laundry list of things that will kind of make it hard for people to say, you know what you should do? You should probably make a head coaching change. You should probably go down that road. Now, listen, Sirianni, by the way, this is the Eagles media guide. The steward of one of the most dominant eras in franchise history, Nick Sirianni is the head coach in his 6th campaign with a 59-26 record, which is the 3rd highest career winning percentage in the Super Bowl era. Among Super Bowl winning head coaches, only John Madden and Vince Lombardi have won more than Nick Sirianni, who is the first head coach to earn 5 postseason appearances with 3 division crowns, 2 conference titles, and a Super Bowl in their first 5 years. Does that sound like a guy someone is itching to get rid of with those accolades? I just said there's 2 head coaches that have a higher winning percentage than Nick Sirianni does in a minimum of 50 games. One is John Madden, and the other is Vince Lombardi. And Marquise wants to know why no one is putting him on the hot seat. Sorry.
I think the problem with a lot of these conversations is that whether it's Marquise or whatever rando person on the internet wants to bring up an intellectually dishonest conversation like this, is the fact that let's strip it all away. Let's take away what you just said, Mike. The wins. The fact that the players like him. The fact that he's won a Super Bowl. Let's strip it all away. Why can't it just come down to this? He gets along with his bosses.
Well,
Doug Peterson didn't get along with his bosses. Doug said, I want to keep my guys.
yeah, but I would push back on, I think they got along. I think they just didn't see eye to eye. I think they got along. There was one
Kind of splitting
fundamental.
hairs, isn't it?
No, it's not splitting hairs. I think it was one of the things like, I don't want to have to do this, Doug. Come on, man. Like,
Do you think it was a little more amicable than I'm describing it?
100%. I think
Okay.
Doug Peterson, very amicable split. In fact, Jeffrey Lurie even talked about it at the end, that they didn't want to have to do this. It was
Well, he's not going to come out and blast the guy who won the first Super
no,
Bowl
but it could have
championship.
been a cold split, like a Belichick Kraft. They won championships together. Did
True.
they get along?
No, but I would say that just to me, I felt like Doug was such a weird situation where it was like he's the first guy to ever win a Super Bowl championship for you, and it was a very unpopular decision by the fan base when you fired him.
I don't know. It was unpopular, yes, but understand to others. I think there were some people that were kind of like, you know
I think
what?
there's people who still don't understand.
Yeah, but I do feel like people like as it like kept going downhill a little bit. You know, I think people were like, maybe Doug's kind of had that.
You think
one
maybe his
magic run in
Jacksonville
him.
tenure kind of like maybe opened people's eyes a little bit?
I don't think it helped them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think
Fair,
people, you know, I remember, you know, towards the end there where people were kind of like, I think it's going down a bad way. Like, and I don't know that he's the right guy to kind of fix this thing. Maybe he had the magic wand for that 1 year. And look, the point being is the Eagles have done a really good job of finding guys. They have done a great job of uncovering the guy that nobody else really had the beat on. And that's why I think in this offensive coordinator search, it just kind of hit me that they're going to hire Sean Mannion. That's going to be the guy. Why? Because as Jeffrey Lurie said, we want to be 5 years ahead of being 5 years ahead. That was way back when they fired Andy Reid. And they thought that the league was kind of changing and that Andy was stuck in the old West Coast offense and the spread was kind of coming in. And, of course, Andy evolved himself a little bit in Kansas City.
Very much so. By the way, Andy's evolved himself 3 different times in Kansas City. We should give him credit for that.
So let's read a couple text messages here. 609-403-0973. Actually, should we hold do you have this stuff ready?
NFL Live?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those obviously we were doing football at 4, and then Q Myers was on. So it was a very busy 4 o'clock hour. But on NFL Live, they had Adam Schefter, Sal Paolantonio, Dan Orlovsky, and Andrew Hawkins all talking about why haven't the Eagles hired their offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if any of this audio is going to make anybody feel better about the situation, but let's start with Adam Schefter explaining that the Eagles are being patient, but you, the fans, might not like the person they hire. Here's Adam Schefter.
Well, they might not be the big names that Sal in Philadelphia will like, but they've spent the last couple of days talking to Jim Bob Cooter of the Indianapolis Colts, and they've spoken today to Sean Mannion, the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks coach, who a lot of people believe has a bright coaching future, and they're looking for the right fit for one of these jobs. They've been through any number of candidates. They don't appear to be in any rush to name somebody. They have Nick Sirianni, who always could call the offense if they can't find somebody worthy of doing the job, but they're being diligent, looking for the right match.
Yeah. That was an interesting little take there. They always have Nick Sirianni that can call the offense if they can't find somebody. That's a caveat, huh?
It's a caveat, but I think Sirianni has also verbalized he doesn't want to do that.
Right. So that's, to me, that comment there from Adam Schefter is the one where someone says, like, hey, Nick Castellanos could play right field this year.
Right. Is it ironic that they're both named Nick?
Sure.
The fail-safe is a guy named Nick.
I don't see Nick deciding I'm going to call the plays.
No, but I think what Schefter brings up is a very important point, which is there has to be a right fit. And maybe, as we've discussed in the past, maybe some of these guys are like, look, Stoutland, that's not my run scheme. Maybe some people have said, you know what? Maybe Hurts is not the guy I want to coach. Maybe some guys have said that, maybe Philadelphia, as Schefter says, is not right for them.
The fit is not for everybody, as we've seen. Some people have taken other jobs. Some people have pulled out of consideration. It's not for everybody, but they think there are enough good candidates out there that they're going to come out of this with a good, strong offensive coordinator.
The fit's not for everybody, and I said this morning, I was on Birch 365, and I just arbitrarily threw out the number 6. There's 6 reasons. There could be 10. I just came up with 6. Jalen Hurts. He's a reason. He's a reason. If I'm Mike McDaniel, I say I want to run my offense. Someone that I think will run my offense better is available. There's a job available for me that runs my offense, that could run my offense better. I'm going to take that job. So Hurts is a reason. It's not good or bad. It's just McDaniel has an offense. Some people say, well, you got to tailor your offense to the talent you have. He might say, I don't want to do that. I have my offense. I don't want to tailor it to Jalen Hurts. I can go run my offense. And I think Justin Herbert can run my offense pretty good.
And football history is full of coaches who think that way, too. For every coach we talk about who says, I can make this guy better, there's another handful of coaches who say, I don't want to make that guy better. I don't want to work with that guy. Mike McDaniel is from that coaching tree, that Mike Shanahan coaching tree. And it's very explicit in their history that they do not like every quarterback who comes down the line.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm him and I have the pick of the litter, I might say, I run this offense. This is what I do really well. Can I make a new offense and tailor it to Jalen Hurts? Sure, but I don't want to. I have an opportunity to get a job with a quarterback that can run the offense that I excel in.
And speaking of Jalen Hurts, Sal Paolantonio points to the fact that the people the Eagles are interviewing right now are all people that Sal Paolantonio thinks can get more out of Jalen Hurts.
I don't think it's taking too long. I think Adam is correct. They want to take their time and want to get it right. The names that Adam just mentioned may not be household names, but they are offensive coordinators that will open up this offense for Jalen Hurts, make it more dynamic. Also, let him be under center where he is much more effective.
Yeah, I look at that. He says, I don't think it's taking too long. I agree.
I think people are just impatient.
I would ask this question. Who are they missed out on that you're like, it's taking too long? They're not getting this guy. They're not getting that guy. That guy's available. Did you want Dable? Maybe. Did you want McDaniel? Maybe. Other than those two guys. And by the way, McDaniel chose to go someplace else.
Yep.
So did Dable. I mean, apparently the Eagles had never offered Dable the job. The understanding was he was going to interview for head coaching jobs, and if he didn't get him, he was going to kind of land in Tennessee.
Right, because for those who don't know, the story is that apparently Dable and Robert Saleh really hit it off, and that they really got along so well that they basically kind of came to like a handshake gentleman's agreement.
So, what candidate is available that they need to act quick on? Like, who are they missing out on that you're like, oh my God, it's January 28th. What are they doing? I don't see that guy existing.
The only guy out there that has not been mentioned, that was previously mentioned, that I am curious about is Matt Nagy. And that's the only guy out there that I don't want to say I'm scratching my head, but I'm just curious about, did the meeting not go well? Is Nagy kind of like, you know what, maybe I don't fit this job? Do the Eagles need to fit what we're looking for? That is the one I'm curious about.
Don't see any other teams lining up to interview him.
Correct. So
the Eagles can do their due diligence.
Is he maybe the guy where they say, hey, we like you?
Is he the fallback guy?
Right, is he the fallback guy? Is he the guy that, when the prom date you wanted says no, you go to Matt Nagy as the backup?
I wouldn't be shocked, because the whole thing with Andy Reid coming out and basically endorsing him as to why is he not a head coach, it seems very similar to the Peterson thing. Right. Of like him coming out and endorsing Peterson. Nobody took the bait except for
Jeffrey
the
Lloyd.
Eagles.
Yeah. To which Sal Paolantonio goes on to further explain why Sal Paolantonio feels like that there's a certain way to run Jalen Hurts offensively that can get the most out of him and the Eagles moving forward.
When he's under center, Jalen Hurts is a more effective, more efficient, more productive quarterback. So you want a guy who's going to come in there and coach Jalen Hurts, a Super Bowl MVP, who's done it all in his career, and now he gets them another offensive coordinator in his ear calling plays. That's 11 different guys calling plays in his ear in the last 10 years. I don't know any other quarterback in the history of the league who has gone through what Jalen Hurts has had to go through. So you got to coach up Jalen Hurts, make the offense more dynamic.
Well, we all know how many guys have been here, how many guys have come through, and what the whole situation is. It also could be a coordinator. I don't know if this has ever been brought up. Maybe that coordinator is saying, the new coordinator might be saying, or a potential coordinator could be saying, I got to teach Jalen Hurts a whole new thing? Like, that sucks.
Or how about the idea that he just mentioned under center? What if the Eagles agree with Sal? What if Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, the people in the building are saying, we need to get Jalen under center more? And then maybe these coordinators coming in and be like, I'm going to run shotgun more. And they're like, nah.
Well, I think if they came in and said, this is what we want to do, I think that's what the Eagles are kind of like managing right now. Who's coming in here and saying, I can maximize Jalen, as opposed to, well, I'm gonna run my thing, or I'm gonna run what I do well. We'll see. I think there's a lot that certainly they are. Again, they have a process that they have gone through and it's worked in the past. And I think they are going through all these guys, and it is a scouting situation. What does this team do well? What does that team do well? Mannion's in Green Bay. Let's hear some of his ideas. So-and-so's in Chicago. They had a good offense. Let's hear some of their ideas. We like what they did here.
The Eagles have a long history of doing fact gathering. They don't just interview people for the sake of interviewing them. They interview them to gather information. But to that point, though, Sal Paolantonio has got a little warning for everybody, Mike, because there might be a reason why this entire search continues longer than everybody wants.
Now you got the Giants looking for an OC, the Jets, the Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens. You basically go from the Holland Tunnel all the way to the Francis Scott Key Bridge down I-95, and you could interview for 4 different jobs. You'd wear out your Easy Pass.
He's right, though. And I said that before, which is now the Giants need and by the way, the Giants head coach doesn't call plays.
And a lot of people thought Tom Monken was going to go with John Harbaugh, and he said, no, I'm going to take the Browns head coaching job.
The Jets head coach doesn't call offensive plays.
Nope.
So the guys now, and by the way, the Baltimore Ravens,
Jesse Minter,
has a defensive coordinator head coach. That's 3 teams now that the offensive coordinator that goes to those places gets to call the plays without somebody overseeing them or being a part of the conversation. Keep that in mind.
So then Dan Orlovsky chimed in on NFL Live. He said that the Eagles' offensive coordinator is a desirable job, but I'll let Dan explain.
Of course it's a desirable job. It's also a needle in a haystack. You have to, 1, obviously be very good at the job, be very good at play call and play design. 2, I don't believe it should be your first time being a play caller because of obviously the experience that they're coming off of last year. 3, you better be tough. You better be able to handle noise and criticism. We know the stories of the passion of the fan base and what happened with Kevin Patullo and his house and family. Just so many bullet points that are very difficult to find all 4 in one person.
Yeah. Well, and he said a pretty interesting thing. You got to find the needle through the haystack. Somebody who can be tough-skinned and do all the things that you.
But he also said be creative. That's the other thing. You know, how many times did we complain about Lane Johnson said it, A.J. Brown said it, other people upset it who are football lifers. The offense was predictable. There was lack of creativity. Well, now you're having to find somebody who now checks off all these boxes.
I always laugh at that thing, though. It makes me laugh sometimes when I hear that whole thing. It's the predictable and lacks creativity. Some of the best offenses that ever existed is like the wing T, which is like 3 plays. You know, like some of these teams ran like the most basic, simple offenses forever. And we're like, if we execute it, you can't stop us. It's the whole basis of like Navy and Army football is we run 2 plays, deception, we execute them. They're as basic and simple as you get, and we run them really well.
Listen, you can find a lot of examples, but there's a reason why those examples never lasted beyond a couple of years here and there, because when teams have a counter for you and you don't have an answer for it, then you're stuck.
Again, I go back to the Eagles' offense. I'm not sitting here saying it was very creative or high, whatever, profile or explosive. Actually, it was explosive. That was the whole basis of it. Is
the whole the playbook was getting explosive plays, as Casey Jordan has pointed out.
Right, you run the ball, and then you kind of take your shots over the top.
Right.
And the problem is they couldn't run the ball this year. But I go back to, and I discussed this morning on Birds 365. Go get the All-22 and go watch an Eagles game. Okay? Do yourself a favor. It'll be painful.
It is painful.
Go get the All-22 and watch an Eagles game. And then come back to me and then report back to me and say, how many times did you see guys wide open that the quarterback did not throw the ball to them? Often. Now, are they running crazy routes? Are they running these fun routes? Are they running these out routes where guys are schemed open? Not necessarily. No.
But I will go back to, and this is my only refute of that, which is when Nick Foles and Kurt Warner have broken down the Eagles' offense this past year, they have both mentioned the fact that there's a lot of times that Jalen Hurts is being told to only go to certain options. He's not scanning the whole field. So if a guy is open to my right, like the right-hand side of the quarterback, but he's looking left the whole time, what are you supposed to do? Tell Jalen Hurts to tell his coordinator to go bleep himself and do something else?
It's a weird process that they had here.
Very
There's no
weird.
question about it.
Very weird.
All right, 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. A lot of text messages coming in, so we'll hit the text board in our next segment here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. Hey, don't forget, the Metro Classic is back, it's coming tomorrow. It starts at Stockton. I say it's back. It is back in New Jersey. It has been in Trenton and North Jersey, but now they're bringing it to South Jersey. At Stockton University, tickets at MetroClassicBasketball.com. It all starts tomorrow. It is the top high school basketball. It's like I say college basketball. These guys are all going to be playing in college. Many of the top names you'll see this weekend. Guys like VJ Edgecombe, Carl Anthony Towns, Cade Cunningham, all played at the Metro. If you're a basketball fan, especially a high school basketball fan, and you want to see the highest level high school basketball players, tickets tomorrow, Stockton University, the Metro Classic Basketball.com. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. On the other side, we'll read off your texts and react to the end of the show. Anything we've talked about today. Sixers, true contenders in the East. Eagles, offensive coordinator. Nick Sirianni, all on the table. 609-403-0973.
You got to work with Nick Sirianni. You got to work with the best offensive line coach in the league in Jeff Stoutland. You have the best GM in the league in Howie Roseman. You have an owner in Jeffrey Lurie who's willing to pay anything to get the best team on the field. So it's a great situation if you can make it fit.
Sal Palantonio said that on NFL Live. You got to work with Nick Sirianni. You got to work with Jeff Stoutland. You got to work with Howie Roseman. You got to work with Jeffrey Lurie. He's looking at those as good things, though, it sounds like. See what the text board says. 609-403-0973. A lot of text. Joe and Ventnor. If Nick is so great, do you think he'd get another head coach or OC job if he left? Don't think another team would want him personally, Joe and Ventnor. I don't think he gets an offensive coordinator job. Would he get another head coaching job? Great question, Joe. Don't know the answer to that question. Intuition would say, man, I'm torn on this one. And I think that's a fair question. Why wouldn't anybody else want to hire this guy?
I think Nick would get a second job for a reason that people don't like. I think he's a good interview. He seems to be really good when the cameras are not live on him. Like when he's behind the scenes talking to people, he's a very relatable interrelationship guy.
What did Howie Roseman say about Nick? And this is where I think the fans have a really tough disconnect with Nick. You said it. He's a good interview. He probably dazzles behind the scenes. But I think that one of the things that the fans have a hard time with is what Howie Roseman said. He says that he is elite in all of these categories.
You know, he's shown that when we bring people in that he's open to doing whatever's best for this football team. And that's all he cares about is winning. And so anything that he's answering here obviously is dependent on who we bring in. But when he's brought in people, he's given them the flexibility to put their own spin on things. And obviously, you know, I sit here and I feel incredibly grateful that I'm working with someone who, as a head coach, is elite at being a head coach, you know, elite at building connection with our team, elite about talking about fundamentals, game management, situational awareness, you know, bringing the team together, holding people accountable. And when you're looking for a head coach, those are really the job descriptions.
So to that guy's question, if other teams value those qualities as elite, then I would say he gets another head coaching job. And I would say my intuition, as I was conflicted with this answer, Joe, would say that Nick would get another head coaching job. Why? Chip Kelly got another chance. Chip Kelly was a disaster here in terms of connecting with players and coaching staff and front office and everything. But he got another opportunity. So I think Nick would, and the reason is, as you just heard from
Howie
Roseman. Sorry, I blanked for a second. I want to say it again real fast, in that he called him elite in all the areas that generally fans don't care about or don't think about. You know, it's funny. In college, I lived in a house, and a bunch of us used to play John Madden football all the time. One of the guys in the house just wasn't a gamer. He never played. And he would always kind of mock us and joke. And he'd say, oh, you know, I see they have a graph there for speed and power and all these things. Like you were a 96 speed or an 85, whatever. He would always say, do they have one of those graphs for heart? How much heart does that guy have? It was kind of like a joke of like, but that's what's going on here. He doesn't call the plays. Well, what does he do? He doesn't do this. Well, what does he do? And Howie Roseman told you what they value in their head coach. Not calling the plays, not being that guy. He values is someone that has great vision, great conviction in what they do, coaches the fundamentals, helps the players get better, somebody that connects with the guys, has mental toughness. And he called him elite in those areas. He talked about it. He said that he's shown that he's willing to work with somebody else. He said that he is someone who, as a head coach, is elite at being a head coach, elite at building connections, elite about talking about fundamentals, elite at game management, situational awareness, bringing a team together, and holding people accountable. By the way, that's what Jason Kelsey said about him a couple of years ago. He said he has never played for a coach who has held people more accountable than Nick Sirianni. So to Joe and Ventnor, I hope that helped answer your question. James in Delaware says they want another puppet. If they view Nick Sirianni as a puppet, I would like to be the guy who was called the puppet with the third highest winning percentage behind John Madden and Vince Lombardi, James. I mean, if that's what it is, if he's a puppet and he somehow has the third highest winning percentage, by the way, and a Super Bowl.
But that goes back to what I said earlier, which is, listen, at worst case scenario, he just gets along with his bosses. If it's as simple as he just does whatever he's told, then you know what? He's the greatest at doing whatever he's told because he won a championship and he got you to one other championship game. So
Maybe
that's a pretty good puppet.
Maybe the Eagles are waiting for the Seattle OC. Seattle OC wouldn't want to come here. He calls the plays in Seattle for a defensive coordinator.
Right. Why would he
do that?
Here?
Yeah. That
also, they would block him. They would block him from doing the interview. The only way Kubiak can interview is if it's for promotion.
Yeah. But even if he calls the plays in Seattle with a defensive head coach.
Right. What is the appeal for him to come here?
Yeah, that one's not happening. All right, 609-403-0973. There's two that the team with those players, any coach would have those stats. The way you guys talk, he'll never be on the hot seat because he's never to blame, Andrew and Summers' point. I don't know what he was saying other than it sounds like he's saying that Sirianni's stats don't really matter.
So what, wins don't matter? Like I'm not fully following what the point is here.
See, the way you guys talk, he'll never be on the hot seat because he's never to blame. Yeah, you know when he would be on the hot seat, Andrew? If the team didn't make the playoffs. Like, if they didn't make the playoffs, that's a different story. How do you just keep saying we're going to fire a guy who wins the division with 11 wins? It's not like Mike Tomlin that's just getting a winning record. He's 9-8. Some of those years he was 9-8 and he wasn't getting to the playoffs.
Right.
Or
even to a conference championship game.
Right, but I'm talking about like the whole thing with Tomlin was he never had a losing record ever.
Right.
But a lot of those years, I joked this morning, Mike Tomlin, you're going from a guy who's going to win 9 or 10 games and get knocked out in the first round to Mike McCarthy, who's going to win 11 or 12 games and get knocked out in the first round. But to Andrew and Summers' point, he's saying he's not on the hot seat because he's never to blame. He won the division 2 years in a row. He won 11 games this year. So what am I blaming him for? That they didn't win the Super Bowl? God forbid. Like, how obtuse are we as a fan base that now if you don't win the Super Bowl, you suck and should be fired? Like, come on, let's get a dose of reality here. This is a team that hadn't won a Super Bowl in their life until 2017. Now, all of a sudden, if they don't win the Super Bowl, you should be on the hot seat and get fired? Like, come on, guys. Like, let's be realistic here.
Listen, it goes back to when Sirianni was hired, he had that first press conference. There's a group of people who just, no matter what the man does, they're never going to like him. And you know what? That's fine. You don't have to like him. But the reality is that the NFL team that he works for and the players who play with him do like him. And that's more important if you like him or not.
Well, and listen, a lot of this was first glance, first time you ever heard this guy, you were like, I don't know this guy. He's going to fail. And first impression was this guy was going to fail. Most fans don't want to say, you know what, I was wrong. So you hold on for as long as you can to say, I told you this guy was not going to be right. He was going to fail. Because most people don't want to turn around and say, you know what, I was wrong about that guy. And Nick Sirianni is the guy that most fans are saying, I don't want to come around and say I was wrong about that guy, because you're just constantly waiting for the slip up to say, see, I told you he was never the guy. Chris in Delaware says, imagine being told as an offensive coordinator candidate that you have to use Stoutland's run game. Let's stop right there. Yeah, Chris, I'd hate to use Stoutland's run game. You know, the one that's been the best running game in football for like his entire time here. That would be awful. Like if I was an offensive coordinator and said, hey, guess what? One caveat is we have the best run game in football. We'd like to stick with it. Yeah, I'd hate to imagine being told I have to use the best running game in football. What a terrible situation that would be. I mean, seriously? Like if I'm an offensive coordinator and I have a chance to go and add to my offense with the best run game coordinator in the league, I would say, man, this is going to open up a whole nother avenue for my run game. Now, I might think I have a good run game, but I think Jeff Stoutland's proven over his time here that the Eagles' running attack has been pretty good all the way back to when he first got hired in 2013 under Chip Kelly. This team has done one thing pretty well for probably like a decade, and that's run the football. I mean, you go from DeAndre Swift back to Miles Sanders to LeGarrette Blount, and before that, the running backs they haven't had big name running backs, but they've always had a good run game. Why? Because Jeff Stoutland's pretty good at his job. Now, the second point he makes, he says, imagine being told as an offensive coordinator candidate you have to use Stoutland's run game. A quarterback who doesn't want to run, play from under center, or throw over the middle doesn't sound very attractive. Well, the quarterback stuff is definitely something. Does the quarterback not want to play under center? Does he not want to throw over the middle? And I think those are definitely fair questions.
They're fair questions, but I think that they are born out of a narrative that is based in a lot of assumptions that we don't actually have concrete evidence about. Because there's many times, like for example, on that Hard Knocks episode, Jalen Hurts talks about, hey, we're going to throw over the middle.
Yep.
Okay? Well, so why would a guy who says, I refuse to throw over the middle, say, hey, we're going to throw over the middle? Like, there's so many examples of...
I will say, though, in watching
Yes.
a lot of All-22, he doesn't throw over the middle a lot, and there's guys open.
But again, I go back to, is that because he won't throw over the middle? Is that because he's being told, don't throw over the middle? Is it because that, for example, how many times have we heard quarterbacks talk about how there are sometimes routes run to open up other routes?
Sure, I mean, they're decoy routes.
So, like, are some of those over-the-middle routes getting the safety away from somebody else?
Could be. But there are times where there are guys open, but you're saying,
For example,
why aren't you making that play? Instead, there's one play, for instance, that really stands out in the playoff situation is where he takes a shot down to A.J. Brown, and it's the one that you saw in the Hard Knocks.
Yes.
Where Sirianni says to Patullo, hey, when are we taking our shots? Don't forget, take our shots. And then they show the throw to A.J. Brown.
And
on that
drops it.
play, Devontae Smith is wide open over the middle, and he would have had a first down. He's at the sticks if he just throws
But
him the
Hurts
ball.
never even looked
looks his
Devontae's
way.
way.
No.
Correct. So again, how many of these routes are option 1, option 2 routes instead of teaching the quarterback to scan the whole field? I don't know.
Tim in Summers Point. Mike, you just listed off all the reasons why Sirianni is not on the hot seat, so how would he feasibly not get scooped up by a team like Miami or the Browns or the Raiders when he's shown he can absolutely win games? Yeah, Tim, I think he would. I do find that Sirianni is polarizing in the league just because some people view him or don't like him because of his off-the-field shenanigans, yelling at the fans through the tunnel, that kind of stuff. I think if Nick just didn't say a word and just said, hey, here's my resume, he'd be all right.
Nick, shut up.
Yeah. 609-403-0973. Good stuff. Good text messages. Keep them coming. We'll try to fit in a couple more on the other side. We'll get ready to get out of here tonight. I can't believe it's almost 6 o'clock. A lot of fun. All right, coming up, Flyers tonight against the Blue Jackets. 7:30 puck drop. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. All right, 5:52 as we get ready to get out of here tonight. Flyers tonight taking on the Blue Jackets. Man, who was worse on Monday, the Sixers or the Flyers?
Oh,
Flyers,
I would say
the Sixers got beat so bad during the middle of the day. That was fresh. The Flyers later on that night said, hold my beer, and got beat 4-0.
Yeah, I think the difference is the Flyers lost to the better team. I think that's where the vibe is a little different.
I think I will say the Sixers should be better than Charlotte. I think people are laughing at Charlotte because they just don't watch it. That team's really good.
They're a good
team. They are
team.
starting to really turn the corner. They beat Oklahoma City. They smoked them last week. When they're healthy, their problem is they haven't been healthy.
Sure.
They got a lot of young talent, and they are starting to really show people, hey, we're coming. We're coming for you. So I get it. It's Charlotte. They look like they're not very good. If people who watch the league will tell you that team is starting, they're going to make the playoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're not even a play-in team and they're into the playoffs.
Listen, I look at it like this. It's one thing to lose to a team like Charlotte. It's another thing to lose the way they lost.
Well, listen, the way they lost is frustrating. They didn't have Joel. They didn't have Paul. It was a 3 o'clock in the afternoon game. If you really put a lot of stock, well, if you put a lot of stock into it, one game on a 3 o'clock on a Monday, okay, I'll agree with you. I'm not putting a lot of stock in that game. As you saw last night, that game was a distant memory pretty quickly. I think they, quite frankly, sadly, I think they went down there and mailed it in and just said, listen, we'll battle another day.
Are we rephrasing the term a Monday in January then?
Sure.
Instead of a Tuesday in February?
Tuesday in February is a Monday in January. That game smelled like the head of the fish got cut off early in the day there. I say anytime the Sixers play a game that Joel Embiid is not in, I don't judge that game for anything because if Joel Embiid doesn't play, you're not winning. You're not winning anything. We know that by now. He's got to be playing and healthy and 100% for them to have a shot to win anything. That game is not one that I'm going to judge. The Flyers, on the other hand, they got smoked. Vladar is back. Now, the funny part is that I said last week, Harrison's been terrible as the backup. He has started to finally play better in the role that he's currently in, where he's playing like more often. He beats the Avalanche. He played fantastic in that game. Vegas the other night, he was outstanding. But so then there were people wondering, well, if Harrison's going to keep playing well, should you start to use him more in this role and have Vladar kind of fall back into the role that you signed him for? Well, Vladar's back. He's going to play tonight. That game's a 7:30 puck drop. Follow Kevin_Durso for more on the Flyers as that game in Columbus tonight against the Blue Jackets. All right, that's it for us. Best of the Sports Bash is coming up next right here on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.